Uh, Thank you. Time is of the essence.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Welcome back to the afternoon session. As we mentioned this morning, we still have two informal presentation of extension requests remaining for this afternoon of Thailand and Tajikistan. And let me now give the floor to the representative of Tajikistan in order to present its extension request. You have the floor.
Sorry. Madam Chair, Excellencies, and distinguished colleagues, on behalf of the government institution Tajikistan National Mine Action Center, it's a distinct honor to formally present our third extension request under Article 5 of the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention, spanning the period from 2026 to the end of 2032. Tajikistan remains highly committed to the humanitarian norms of this convention. However, despite our rigorous and highly systematic efforts, absolute compliance with our previous deadline has been impeded by extraordinary geographical, historical, and environmental circumstances. Today, we present a realistic, data-driven operational roadmap to eliminate the remnants of this hidden threat by 2032. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next, please. To understand why every square meters, we must consider the socio-economic impact of land release. In Tajikistan, land release supported infrastructure, development, agriculture, improved connectivity, and economic opportunities. It has also difficult threat and strengthened livelihoods, contributing to sustainable development and regional stability. Next slide, please. During the 2019 to 2025 extension period, Tajikistan addressed a significant remaining challenge of over 8.8 million square meters of contaminated land. Through adaptive operations and district-based approach, Sharitus and Hawalin district were declared mine-free. Overall, more than 8.9 million square meters of land were released, destroying more than 24,000 landmines and unexplosive ordnance through survey, reduction, and clearance activities carried out under challenging conditions. Next, please. Despite significant progress, Tajikistan requires an extension to 2032 due to ongoing operational challenges. During the previous period, surveys identified 47 previously unknown hazardous areas, adding more than 3 million square meters to the national baseline. In addition, 87% of the remaining contamination is located along the difficult Tajik-Afghan border, where challenging terrain, natural hazard, and a limited seasonal window continue to constrain clearing operations. Next, please. As of mid-2026, Tajikistan has successfully returned 38 million square meters of land to safe use and handed over 456 hazard areas to communities. As present, 104 confirmed minefield remains, covering 5.6 million square meters, the vast majority of which 96 minefields are located along the Tajik-Afghan border, with only 8 in the central region. Next, please. Our 2026 to 2032 strategy is clear. By the end of 2027, we will complete a full resurvey of all remaining hazard areas in the central and border regions. Priorities will be set by proximity to communities, local request, altitude, and border security. Top priority, clearing land for urgent agriculture use and for the construction of the infrastructural objects which are vital for mountain communities' livelihoods. Next, please. For full transparency, Tajikistan processed 3 operational options for mine action. Option 1, clear 6.1 million square meters by 2032 with current capacities. Option 2, target 9 million square meters across 125 hazard areas, accounting for potential new discoveries. And option 3, complete all operations by 2030 with doubled or front-loaded international funding. We are committed to realistic, flexible solutions and welcome your support. Next, please. Tajikistan does not just request aid, we innovate. Today, 25 specialized teams operate under 4 partners: the Humanitarian Demining Company of the MOD, FSD, NPA, and Survey and Demining Team. We have also modernized our system. Denmark has replaced paper reporting with the Survey mobile app integrated into IMSS-Macor. This enables real-time data collection, geographic accuracy, quality assurance, and transparent reporting for donors. Our progress is built on action, partnership, and technology. Next slide, please. The impact of contamination in Tajikistan remains significant. Since 1992, 892 victims have been recorded. Including 351 fatalities and 541 injuries. However, casualty rates have steadily declined due to effective land release and risk education. Since 2019, over 220,000 people have received risk education. Victim assistance delivered through a comprehensive approach including medical care, rehabilitation, and psychosocial support. All age and sex disaggregated data is recorded in the INSMA database. Next slide, please. In line with the Siem Reap Anchor Action Plan, Tajikistan promotes gender equality and environmental protection in humanitarian mine action. The Gender and Diversity Working Group was established on 30 May 2024, and our operations, including fully accredited female demining teams, actively developed in the field. In addition, our field protocols comply with national environmental legislation and the climate change adaptation strategy up to 2030, ensuring that clearance operations are conducted with minimal environmental impact. Next slide, please. To achieve its 2032 completion target, the Tajikistan National Mine Action Program requires sustained and predictable international support. The current funding gap is approximately $3 million US, essential for maintaining national capacity, deploying mechanical demining assets and EOD teams in challenging terrain, and strengthening quality management and INSMA core systems. With continued donor engagement and strong operational cooperation, Tajikistan remains committed to completing all land release activities by 2032. Next slide, please. Madam Chair and distinguished delegates, a mine-free Tajikistan by 2032 is a clear, technically achievable goal within our collective reach. With continued partnership and commitment, we can bring this challenge to a close and transform contaminated areas into safe spaces that support peace, development, and sustainable livelihoods. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of Tajikistan for his presentation. Now I open the floor for delegation of any remarks, and I recognize the representatives of Mine Action Review and ICBL. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the interest of time, we'll deliver a short statement and we'll submit full comments in writing. We thank Tajikistan for submitting and presenting a comprehensive Article 5 extension request, which demonstrates an improved understanding of contamination, a thorough approach to planning, and robust information management. Mine Action Review would like to highlight the following points and questions. We welcome Tajikistan's thorough approach to planning in the request, which considers the three options or scenarios we've heard based on key variables. We note that under option 2, Tajikistan expects to be able to release all known hazardous areas plus anticipated additional hazardous areas by the end of 2032, based on the current capacity of 159 deminers. It is important to note that in order to reach the 2032 target based on existing capacity, Tajikistan plans to further increase operational efficiency by establishing new multitask teams amongst these deminers, continuing to apply resurvey and targeted technical survey, and introducing the use of mechanical assets where terrain allows. Notwithstanding TMMAC's positive efforts to maximise operational efficiency, completion by the end of 2032 is extremely ambitious based on the current capacity and the fact that no mechanical assets are used at present. Also pertinent to whether or not Tajikistan will be able to meet its deadline is the high proportion of remaining mined areas in mountainous areas with severe access challenges and difficult terrain. We welcome Tajikistan's plans to complete resurvey by 2027, which is similarly ambitious, and we encourage Tajikistan to continue to prioritise and survey and resurvey as necessary, including those minefields and battle areas which might be wrongly categorised to ensure full understanding of the remaining challenge. We also welcome and encourage continuation of the Gender Working Group and Environmental Working Group and the specific steps outlined by Tajikistan for the extension period to integrate these topics into implementation. These include elaboration of gender into the mine action policy and an environmental policy, the revision of the National Mine Action Standards in line with the revised IMAS 713 on the environmental management and climate in mine action. Lastly, Mine Action Review notes with concern the withdrawal of US funding for MPA and FSD in Tajikistan in 2025 and the likely closure of MPA's program next year. Tajikistan has strong national ownership and political will to meet its treaty obligations, and we very much hope that donors remain committed to helping Tajikistan fulfill the last phase of its Article 5 implementation. We are now passing directly to colleagues at ICBL and the Landmine Monitor for comments on the extension requests relating to funding and risk education.
Thank you, Mine Action Review. Thank you, Madam Chair. I deliver this statement on behalf of the Landmine Monitor and ICBL. We welcome Tajikistan's continued commitment to risk education and the detailed planning presented for the 2026 to 2032 extension period. We particularly welcome the inclusion of annual implementation plans covering affected districts and villages and involvement of multiple partners, and the focus on vulnerable groups, including school children, farmers, shepherds, border communities, and other populations living near contaminated areas. The request provides a comparatively strong framework for risk education implementation. However, it would be strengthened by greater clarity on how projected beneficiary figures have been calculated and whether these represent direct beneficiaries, indirect beneficiaries, or total populations in targeted communities. Additional disaggregation by age, gender, and specific at-risk groups, together with clearer indicators to measure behavioural change and impact, would further strengthen the request. Regarding prioritisation of risk education, Tajikistan presents a clear rationale linked to social economic impact and community needs. However, the request would benefit from a more explicit explanation of how risk education activities will be sequenced alongside annual land release plans and how factors such as casualty data, seasonal livelihood patterns, and proximity to hazardous areas will inform operational priorities. On funding, we welcome the detailed budget information provided for land release, risk education, and victim assistance, as well as Tajikistan's efforts to improve efficiency through multitask teams and the use of mechanical assets. The request would nevertheless be strengthened by clearer information on which funding is already secured, particularly during the first years of the extension period, and where funding gaps remain, particularly given the withdrawal of US funding. Additional information regarding donor commitments and the impact of recent funding reductions would be useful. Finally, we welcome Tajikistan's proactive resource mobilization efforts and engagement with donors. Continued efforts to broaden the donor base and secure sustainable funding will be important to ensure successful implementation of the extension request and, where possible, accelerate progress towards completion. Thank you.
I thank you for your remarks. Now I would like to offer the floor back to Tajikistan if they have any reactions on the comments.
Thank you very much for the shortcoming noted. Of course, we have noted all of this and will respond to all of them in the near future. Thank you very much for your attention.
I thank Tajikistan for the presentation. Next on my list is Thailand. Please, sir, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Thailand wishes to extend our sincere appreciation to the President of the 23rd MSP, the members of the Committee on Article 5 implementation, as well as the ISU for their continued support and tireless efforts in advancing humanitarian mine action under the APMBC. Due to the current situation and challenges compounded by the situation along the border, Thailand has faced with more difficulties to complete our obligation under Article 5 of the Convention. As a result, Thailand intends to request for a 5-year extension from 2027 to 2031. I would now like to pass the floor to my colleague to elaborate on Thailand's Article 5 implementation and our 5-year My Action Plan.
I'm pleased to present the progress made during the third extension period from 2024 to 2026. Thailand remains determined to clear all contaminated areas within our territory and contribute actively to the shared vision of a mine-free world. While we face complex challenges along our borders, we've made significant progress in recent years. After becoming a state party in 1999, Thailand had over 2,500 square kilometers of contaminated areas across 27 provinces. However, through continued efforts and adaptive clearance strategies, we have reduced the area by more than 99%. At the beginning of the third extension phase in 2023, we aim to clear the remaining 21.8 square kilometers in 6 border provinces. We had drastically reduced contaminated areas to 12.8 square kilometers at the end of 2025. Over 27,000 landmines and 550 items of other ordnance have been destroyed. However, additional contaminated areas were found in early 2026 due to the situation along the Thai-Cambodian border. As a result, the current contaminated areas are 14.2 square kilometers. Next slide, please. Throughout the mine clearance operations, we have encountered various challenges, including terrain. The remaining areas are mostly steep mountains and dense forest, making access difficult. Climate. Unpredictable weather has affected operations and equipment use. Unconventional mine laying patterns. Mine patterns have become more denser and more complex. As previously reported, we found a large number of PMN2 anti-personnel mines, a new development never before seen in Thailand during operations from 1999 to 2025. Limited access to some areas near the border, which has affected survey and clearance operations. Border situation. The situation has also directly impacted the safety of personnel and created new contaminated areas. And lastly, discovery of additional contaminated areas. This included suspected areas reported by other agencies that were not included in the original survey list of 2000. Therefore, there is a need to conduct an update on our national survey. Next slide, please. Currently, Thailand has only 14.2 square kilometers of contaminated land remaining to be cleared across 6 provinces. This is less than 1% of the original contaminated area in the country. However, the clearance of this final 1% has turned out to be difficult and complex as a result of the aforementioned factors. Next slide, please. Thailand therefore requests for a 4th extension of 5 years, from January 2027 to December of 2031, as approved by the Thai government. Next slide, please. The request for extension includes the following action plans. One is an update national survey, which will be carried out during 2027 to 2028. We will survey the areas to confirm the current status of the land, which includes areas already cleared, as well as newly contaminated areas resulting from the situation along the border. Second, mine clearance. We will complete operations both in the existing contaminated list and newly discovered areas during the survey, using an integrated approach of personnel, mine detection dogs, and mechanical assets. Third, EORE and VA. We will continue to prioritize raising awareness among people in at-risk areas, providing systematic relief to victims through the VA programs. Fourth, joint operations. We will continue our bilateral cooperations with Cambodia through the Thailand-Cambodia General Border Committee and the Joint Coordinating Task Force on Humanitarian Demining. Next slide, please. Regarding the work plan, the update national survey is planned for completion within 2 years, between 2027 to 2028, with 2 main goals. 1, confirming the status of previously cleared areas and other newly discovered areas, and planning for safe management or handover to local authorities, following the residual contamination management approach. And second, defining boundaries of newly contaminated areas resulting from the situation along the border. To prepare for upcoming operations during this extension period, our mine clearance operations will be executed concurrently with surveys and management of affected areas based on survey results. Next slide, please. Throughout Thailand's operations, we have received continued support and cooperation from both domestic and international agencies, resulting in steady progress in land release. Continued cooperation from international partners is essential to support Thailand in clearing the remaining 1% of contaminated land in the country. To accelerate humanitarian demining and fulfill our obligations under the Convention, Thailand seeks assistance in 3 main areas. First off, technical cooperation, knowledge and technical transfer in survey and clearance, particularly in identifying new contaminated areas. Second, equipment support, modern tools and mechanical assets as well as equipment, including artificial intelligence technology as well as vehicles for rugged terrain. Third, cooperation along the border is crucial to ensure that clearance operations can proceed as planned. Next slide, please. In closing, Thailand reaffirms its commitment to fulfilling its Article 5 obligation and stands ready to work in close collaboration with all partners to ensure that mine clearance operations proceed according to plan. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Thailand for his presentation. Now I open the floor for delegation for any remarks, and I recognize the representative of ICBL and Mine Action Review. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We welcome Thailand's submission of its Article 5 extension request, seeking an additional 5 years and underscoring Thailand's continuing commitment to fulfilling its obligations under the Mine Ban Convention. As the extension request was only published in the last couple of days, we will provide expert comments to the committee in due course, but we would like to make a few initial remarks. We note the request includes a detailed work plan which provides for extensive survey and resurvey and for completing all clearance within the first 4 years of the extension, leaving the 5th year to evaluate progress. Although the request lacks any reference to how it will finance future operations, we recognize that the Thai government has met almost the entire cost of mine action from the national budget, and we do not doubt that it will continue to do so. However, we also take note of the risk factors that the request identifies that raise serious questions about the prospects for implementing it. Foremost amongst these is that all Thailand's remaining mine contamination is located along the border with Cambodia, where hostilities in 2025 suspended demining operations and left additional contamination. The request points out that a preliminary assessment of border provinces in the earlier part of this year identified 1.3 million square meters of suspected additional mine and other ERW contamination. Thailand states that the request is based, and I quote, on the assumption that operations can proceed under normal conditions and without major disruptions affecting mine clearance activities, end quote. Unfortunately, that does not reflect the current reality on the border. We note that Thailand expresses its desire to pursue border demining, as does Cambodia. We also note the creation of mechanisms such as a joint coordination task force, in addition to the Joint General Border Committee, to facilitate such cooperation. Regrettably, what's missing is any progress in their deliberations that demonstrates the political will needed to move forward. We welcome the extension request as evidence of TMAC's readiness to tackle the remaining mine contamination. We urge Thailand's government to engage constructively with their Cambodian counterparts to create the conditions that would allow it to do so. Thank you, and we are now passing directly to the colleagues at ICBL and the Landmine Monitor for comments on the extension request relating to funding and risk education.
Thank you, Mine Action Review, and thank you, Madam Chair. I deliver this statement on behalf of the Landmine Monitor and ICBL, and as with Mine Action Review, given the late submission of the extension request, these are just initial comments. We welcome Thailand's continued commitment to risk education as an important component of its humanitarian mine action programme and its recognition of the role of risk education in preventing new casualties and supporting residual risk management. We welcome Thailand's intention to review and adjust risk education activities in line with the planned update of the National Survey and to prioritise villages with remaining contamination, border communities affected by conflict and areas that have undergone land release. Thailand's request demonstrates a continued commitment to risk education as part of its broader humanitarian mine action efforts. However, the request would benefit from clearer annual projections for risk education during the 2027 to 2031 extension period. While Thailand identifies broad target areas and populations, the request would be strengthened by annual targets for beneficiaries reached, communities covered, awareness activities conducted, and indicators to measure the effectiveness of efforts and behavioural change over time. Thailand explains that activities will be aligned with the updated national survey and focused on communities affected by remaining contamination and border-related risks. However, additional information on how priorities will be determined and sequenced each year will be useful. Greater clarity on how casualty data, population movements, newly identified hazardous areas, levels of contamination, and the needs of specific at-risk groups will inform planning and would strengthen the request. On funding, Thailand should be commended for its strong national ownership and financial support to its mine action programme. However, while the request provides information on overall mine action capacity, operational requirements, and government support for humanitarian mine action, it does not provide a sufficiently detailed budget for implementation of the survey, clearance, and risk education activities during the extension period. A clearer itemised budget showing annual requirements for each activity, including personnel, training, equipment, transport, outreach activities, educational materials, monitoring and evaluation, and coordination costs would improve transparency and help demonstrate how resources will contribute to the planned outcomes. Thailand notes that it receives support from domestic and international agencies and organisations and will continue to seek cooperation, including to replace old equipment. For greater transparency, the request should specify the in-kind and financial support needed to implement the plan and specify what has already been secured. It would also be helpful to explain how partner coordination and resource mobilisation will be managed. Thank you.
I thank you for your remarks, distinguished delegate. While this is an informal forum and while we operate without any agreed rules of procedure, our practice has been that when a state party wishes to exercise a right of replay, we use the practice normally used at a meeting of state parties. With that said, I understand that Cambodia wishes to take the floor to exercise its right of replay. You will recall that it is our practice that if a delegation wishes to exercise its right of replay, we intend to grant to delegations no more than 2 rights of replay on a particular matter. With that said, I recognize the delegation of Cambodia. Please, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regard to Thailand's submitted extension request, Cambodia wished to make one observation and then to exercise its right of reply in response to certain references made by Thailand. Cambodia notes that Thailand's extension request was submitted only shortly before these meetings. Given the significance of the request and its implication for the scope of Thailand's Article 5 obligations, Cambodia looks forward to the opportunity for further review and comment with other interested states parties in accordance with the established process. Turning to Cambodia's right or reply, Cambodia notes Thailand's reference to new contamination arising from the recent Cambodia-Thailand border conflict. If, just in case, there is any suggestion that this new contamination is caused by Cambodia or Cambodia employs anti-personnel mines, Cambodia would like to place on record that it categorically rejects any allegation that it employs anti-personnel mines. Cambodia does not wish to further pursue the discussion of these allegations under this agenda, as these matters are scheduled for consideration under agenda item 8 on Thursday. Thank you.
I thank Cambodia for its statement. Now I would like to offer the floor back to Thailand for any reactions on comments.
Thank you for the comments from ICBL and Mine Action Review. Thailand will address and incorporate all these comments or issues in our extension request. Thank you.
I thank Thailand for its presentation. Now that all the extension request states have been taken the floor, I open the floor for any delegation that would like to take the floor. I recognize the delegation of Nicaragua. Please, you have the floor.
Buenos días a todas las delegaciones. Buenos días, señor presidente. Más que todo, Nicaragua lo que quiere expresar es un tema de solidaridad pues, para los países que todavía se encuentran desminando su territorio. Y para ello es importante mencionar que el desminado de un territorio es bastante complejo, ya que en esto influyen diferentes factores, entre estos la situación climatológica, lugares de difícil acceso, sectores poblados, dificultad de evacuación de afectados en operaciones de mina, contaminación de basura metálica cerca de los poblados, en sectores cercanos a los poblados, dificultades del clima invernal en las zonas montañosas, desplazamientos de minas por corrientes provocadas por las lluvias. Nicaragua es consciente de esta problemática y en su momento solicito que se le apoye en las prórrogas durante los años que estos países están solicitando, ya que Nicaragua en 1995 tuvo la oportunidad de tener una prórroga producto a esta temática que es bastante difícil. No son los países los que queremos estirar el tiempo, sino la dificultad que genera este tipo de trabajo. Nicaragua reconoce la dificultad de desminar un territorio difícil y pedimos la comparecencia de los países donantes, pues que apoyen a estos territorios que están solicitando sus prórrogas. De este modo protegemos vidas humanas y en esto incrementamos hectáreas de tierras productivas para la población mundial. Gracias, señor presidente, por darnos la palabra.
I thank you. Now I give the floor to Cameroon. Please, you have the floor.
Madame la Présidente, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, le Cameroun tient d'emblée à souligner qu'il n'est ni producteur, ni utilisateur, ni stockeur de mines antipersonnelles. Il ne sert pas non plus de plaque tournante pour leur transfert ou leur vente. Il abrite certes des écoles nationales et régionales de sécurité et de maintien de la paix. Il dispose pour cette raison un stock résiduel de mines antipersonnelles inertes, essentiellement destinées, conformément à la Convention aux besoins d'exercice et d'instruction. Et comme vous le savez, le Cameroun est parti à la Convention d'Ottawa depuis le 19 septembre 2002. C'est-à-dire que mon pays accorde aux questions sécurité en général et la problématique de mines en particulier une importance particulière. Cependant, il y a lieu de relever que pendant plusieurs décennies, mon pays a été exempt de mines antipersonnelles. Toutefois, la survenance du terrorisme et des groupes armés séparatistes dans certaines régions du pays dès 2013 a favorisé l'utilisation d'engins explosifs improvisés. Dans ce contexte, la délégation souhaite réitérer les observations suivantes sur la pertinence des obligations de déminage prévues à l'article 5 pour le Cameroun, en particulier en ce qui concerne les mines antipersonnelles du type improvisé. Premièrement, aucune zone du territoire national camerounais n'est actuellement reconnue ou soupçonnée comme contaminée par des mines antipersonnelles au sens strict défini par la Convention. Deuxièmement, les menaces recensées dans certaines régions du pays, notamment dans les régions du nord-ouest, du sud-ouest et de l'extrême nord, relèvent principalement de la prolifération d'engins explosifs improvisés, dont certains présentent des caractéristiques proches des mines déclenchées par le contact ou par la proximité avec la victime. Il s'agit en effet de menaces asymétriques liées à un contexte sécuritaire particulier qui ne s'inscrivent pas dans la typologie des zones minières au sens de l'article 5 de la Convention. Toutefois, dans un esprit de transparence et d'ouverture, le Cameroun, qui est parti au protocole 2 modifié de la Convention sur certains armes classiques, reste disposé à approfondir l'analyse de la situation sur le terrain avec le concours des partenaires techniques et institutionnels concernés, y compris le Centre international de déminage humanitaire de Genève, l'unité d'appui à l'implémentation de la Convention et le service de lutte anti-mine des Nations Unies. Nous tenons cependant à préciser de nouveau qu'au stade actuel, le Cameroun n'envisage pas de présenter une demande d'extension de délai au titre de l'article 5, n'ayant pas identifié de zone sous sa juridiction où son contrôle répondant aux critères d'une contamination par des mines antipersonnelles. Notre pays réaffirme néanmoins son engagement à travailler de manière constructive avec les mécanismes de la Convention, dans le plein respect de ses obligations et dans une logique de transparence et de responsabilité. Je vous remercie.
I thank you. Now I give the floor to Indonesia. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indonesia thank the Committee on Article 5 implementation for its continued work in supporting state parties. We also thank the state party who presenting their extension request and updated work plan. The representation reflect both the progress achieved and the significant challenges that remain, including security, operational capacity, and financial constraint. Indonesia appreciates their transparency and continued commitment to fulfilling their Article 5 obligation. Madam Chair, my delegation recognizes that the Convention provides for extension where circumstances so require. This mechanism enables affected state parties to implement their obligation in a realistic and sustainable manner. To the discussion also underscore that successful Article 5 implementation is shared responsibility. Continued international cooperation, technical assistance, capacity building, and predictable support remain essential to help affected states meet their obligation. In this regard, my delegation encourages continued constructive engagement among requesting state parties, the committee, and implementing partners to ensure that necessary support accompanies the implementation of this work plan and that no affected state party is left behind. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the representative of Indonesia for his statement. I'm grateful that the committee has the opportunity of meeting with requesting states on the margin of this meeting, and thank you once again to organizations that have provided valuable inputs for our cooperative dialogue. Let's hope that this extension request process will help to strengthen your implementation effort. Now allow us to move to our third part of this agenda item concerning state parties that have been requested to submit updated work plans in accordance with decision on previously granted requests. As you know, respect for the decision of state parties is essential. Five state parties, DRC, Guinea-Bissau, Turkey, Ukraine, and Yemen, were due to submit updated work plans by the 30th of April. Two state parties, Guinea-Bissau and Turkey, submitted its updated work plan on the 6th of January 2026 and the 1st of May 2026, respectively. An additional state party, Ecuador, is due to submit an updated work plan to the 23rd meeting of state parties. I would like to invite state parties that have submitted or have outstanding work plans to take the floor to offer a presentation on their updated work plans and, where relevant, the status of submission of their work plans. Our first state party on the speaker list is Turkey. Please, you have the floor.
Madam Chair and distinguished delegation, on behalf of Turkish Mine Action Center, we would like to congratulate Lebanon for joining the convention and Croatia for being a mine-free country. I will provide an overview of our work plan for the extension period. Next slide, please. Turkey assumed its obligations emanating from the convention as a state party as of 1st of March 2004. Since then, Turkey is fully committed to the convention and striving to fulfill its obligations. In 2011, Turkey declared completion of destruction of nearly 3 million stockpiled mines, fulfilling the commitment under Article 4 of the Convention. Turkey put great effort to fulfill the commitment under Article 5 of the Convention. However, even a reasonable progress made, adequate progress could not be achieved due to the different reasons. Therefore, Turkey submitted 3 requests to extend its mine clearance deadline under Article 5 obligation in 2014, in 2022, and lastly, 2025 for another 5 years in order to fulfill her obligations under Article 5. As presented in the extension request, the mine clearance activities specified in the table will be carried by military elements in the next 5 years. Annual average clearance target of 700,000 square meters was stated in the extension request, and the stated targets will become more concrete in the annual plans. Non-technical and technical survey plans for the extension period will be carried out by military elements in the next 5 years presented in the tables. The NTS of a total of 211 mined areas is planned to be completed between 2026 and 30. You can also see the technical survey activities planned for the same period, which is slightly more than 3 million square meters. The TS activities are particularly valued to clarify the contamination status of the suspected hazardous areas and to utilize the clearance capacity more effectively. In 2026-28 Mine Action Plan, it's planned to address an area of 31 million square meters through clearance and survey assets. As you may have realized, we aim to reach the targets of 5-year plans in 3 years. The main reason of this is the increase of national capacity. 5-year plans were prepared according to assets available in 2025, while 3-year and annual plans are prepared with the increased capacity. Next slide, please. To reach the targets in 3-year plan, we prepared a very detailed 2026 annual mine action plan, which can be found attached to the annual Article 7 report. In 2026, mine clearance activities are planned to be conducted in 41 minefields in 11 different provinces, which will cover an area of approximately 1.5 million square meters. Technical survey in 8 different provinces covering an area of approximately 1 million square meters, along with the NTS in 70 minefields in 3 different provinces. Turmak takes into consideration several factors in the process of preparing the annual plan, such as border security, benefits to local people, urgency of the projects, as well as the climate conditions, land structure, and the altitude of the contaminated areas. Turmak gives utmost importance to using all means to increase the productivity and effectiveness of all the assets available. To that end, Turmak prepares the annual mine action plan 1 year ahead of the implementation and assigns the teams seasonally according to climate and soil conditions. The teams are assigned to the eastern borders in summer period, where the climate conditions are very harsh in winter. The terrain is steep and the altitude is very high, reaching 3,000 meters. While assigning the same teams to southern border areas in winter, where the terrain is plain and the climate is milder, permitting mine action activities. With this approach, mine action activities could be conducted with the same teams throughout the year incessantly. As stated before, 5-year plans are prepared according to the national capacity of 2025, as you can see in the slide, while the annual and 3-year plan is developed with the current increased capacity. Therefore, we expect to achieve more than what was planned in the extension period request plan in coming years. since the national capacity is increasing. 4 additional humanitarian teams are already operational, along with the 4 additional mechanical mine clearance equipment and 6 mine detection dogs. In addition, by the end of this year, 6 additional military teams and 2 MDDs are planned to be operational. Along with the military capacities, Turkey allocated national budget allowing to conduct mine clearance through civilian companies. This process has been initiated and the mine clearance is expected to begin by the end of 2026. Turkey plans to continue Phase 4 of the Eastern Border Mine Clearance Project series with a contracting modality in one province on eastern border of Turkey via European Union funds or any international donor support. Within the scope of the planned project, 85 minefields measuring approximately 4 million square meters are planned to be cleared of mines. 20 sessions of explosive ordnance risk education are planned to be provided for local residents living near hazardous areas and refugees. 16 sessions of capacity building activities are planned to be conducted for Turmak personnel, and additionally, vocational training for local residents and refugees, including women, will be provided in order to empower refugee and local women in line with the Siem Reap Anchor Action Plan, Article 5. We are open for any donor support for this project also. Next slide, please. Turmak has submitted a project proposal titled Strengthening Rural Development and Resilience Through Demining in Turkey in 2025 to conduct humanitarian demining activities in Gaziantep, Şanlıurfa and Kilis provinces along the Syrian border, to be funded under European Union Facility for Refugees in Turkey within the framework of financial resources allocated for post-FIT 2025-27. The planned components of the projects are clearance of 85 mined areas, conducting EORE, including local residents and Syrian refugees, technical survey on 2 suspected hazardous areas, providing capacity building activities for Turmak, and also vocational training for local residents and Syrian refugees, including women. Many Syrian refugees under temporary protection are living in this region. With the realization of this project, there will be more secure environment for the refugees, and the project might provide sustainable job opportunities. We are expecting European Union support for the realization of this project. Madam Chair, as I conclude here, I would like to thank everyone for their effort and also UNDP and European Union for their support to Turkey in mine action areas. Thank you very much.
I thank the representative of Turkey for his presentation. Next on my list is Yemen. Please, you have the floor. So I think that the delegation of Yemen is not present in the room, so I will pass the floor to the delegation of Guinea-Bissau. Please, you have the floor. Is there any delegations that wish to take the floor under this agenda item? If not, then we will wrap this session. Thank you very much for your participation and for your declarations. This session is adjourned. Okay, and I invite the panel on victim assistance to join us.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear colleagues, welcome to our session this afternoon on victim assistance. It's my pleasure to open and moderate the panel discussion on sustaining assistance through stronger national systems and inclusive policies, in my capacity as chair of the Committee on Victim Assistance. Ensuring that mine victims can access their rights on an equal basis with others remains a core commitment of the Anti-Personal Mine Ban Convention. The Siem Reap Angkor Action Plan 2025 to 2029 places a strong emphasis on sustainability, ensuring that victim assistance is not a parallel system, but rather fully embedded within national policies, plans, budgets, and legal frameworks related to disability, rehabilitation, health, mental health, education, employment, development, and poverty reduction. I would further like to highlight the importance of the integration of victim assistance into broader systems. This includes the mine action sector, where the national mine action centers and other stakeholders have a specific role and responsibilities. In this regard, it is necessary to note where that responsibility lies and where that responsibility stops in different contexts. Global frameworks increasingly support us in meeting our objectives. As noted in the Siem Reap Angkor Action Plan, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is among the most relevant, particularly as 38 of the 39 states parties with mine victims are also party to the CRPD. The Siem Reap Angkor Action Plan requires us to align victim assistance with CRPD provisions. In practical terms, this can be achieved by integrating victim assistance into national CRPD coordination mechanisms, disability laws, policies, or action plans, and reporting and monitoring frameworks. The CRPD's tools, such as general comments, developed by the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, implementation, guidelines, and monitoring mechanisms, each help to address the needs of mine survivors. Now, colleagues, today's discussion is intended to help us reflect on how the states parties can strengthen the national systems so that support for mine and other explosive ordnance victims is predictable and sustainable, including when states parties have completed mine clearance. Please note that this panel is a space for reflection and exchange to explore practical approaches, challenges, and opportunities for strengthening national systems and inclusive policies. Following the panel, we will move on to agenda item 5B, which is the opportunity for states parties to speak about their national efforts, including progress under actions 30 to 39 of the Siem Reap Angkor Action Plan. So please reserve your national statements for after this panel. I will now move on to introduce our great panelists. We are fortunate to have 4 distinguished experts who will share national experiences, survivor perspectives, and good practices. So let me first introduce Mr. Nelson Romero. Mr. Romero works for El Salvador's Veterans and Ex-Combatants Benefits Administration Institute, also known as INAVE. He will speak about El Salvador's national experience in sustaining assistance to mine and other explosive ordnance victims years after completion of mine clearance. Mr. Romero, you have the floor.
Excelencias y distinguidos delegados. En nombre de la República de El Salvador y del Instituto Administrador de Beneficios de Veteranos y Excombatientes, INAVE, es un honor compartir nuestra experiencia en la integración de asistencia a las víctimas dentro del sistema nacionales más amplios. Nuestro trabajo se fundamenta en el principio de que la asistencia a las víctimas debe ser sostenible, inclusivo y forma parte permanente de las políticas públicas y los servicios del Estado. Siguiente. El Salvador ha fortalecido progresivamente su modelo de atención a víctimas, lo que inició como una respuesta posterior al conflicto armado, ha evolucionado hacia un sistema nacional que busca garantizar acceso a salud, rehabilitación, protección social, educación e inclusión económica. Actualmente nuestro enfoque no se limita a brindar asistencia, sino a garantizar la inclusión y participación plena de personas beneficiarias. En este caso estamos hablando de víctimas de minas antipersonales, pero la institución abarca una variedad de población, como lo que es veteranos, excombatientes, liceados de guerra, personas con discapacidad y ahora adulto mayor. Siguiente. A través del INAVE, las personas beneficiarias tienen acceso a prestaciones económicas, atención médica especializada y servicios de salud mental. Estos servicios se brindan mediante una estructura institucional coordinada que permite integrar la asistencia a las víctimas dentro de sistemas nacionales permanentes y no como programas aislados o temporales. Siguiente. La rehabilitación continúa siendo uno de los pilares fundamentales de nuestro trabajo. El INAVE proporciona servicios de prótesis y órtesis, rehabilitación física e iniciativas de inserción productiva. Estas acciones permiten fortalecer la autonomía de las personas beneficiarias, mejorar la calidad de vida y facilitar su participación activa en la sociedad. Siguiente. Nuestro modelo también promueve la inclusión social mediante programas de vivienda. Esto fortalece el acceso a servicios especializados a lo largo de su vida. Siguiente. Todos estos esfuerzos están respaldados por un sólido marco jurídico e institucional. La legislación que dio origen al Fondo de Liceados de Guerra, la creación del Instituto de Veteranos y Excombatientes y las reformas posteriores constituyen la base legal que garantiza la sostenibilidad de la asistencia a las víctimas y la continuidad de los beneficiados mediante recursos públicos y estructuras estatales permanentes. Siguientes. Este año, de hecho fue la semana pasada, la comunidad internacional conmemora el 20º aniversario de la Convención sobre los Derechos de las Personas con Discapacidad. El Salvador participó en la conferencia de los Estados partes celebrada en la sede de Nueva York en las Naciones Unidas, reafirmando su compromiso en la inclusión, la accesibilidad, la participación y la protección de los derechos de las personas con discapacidad. La implementación de esta convención continúa fortaleciendo nuestros esfuerzos nacionales en materia de asistencia a las víctimas. Siguiente. El Salvador mantiene su compromiso de la misma manera con la implementación del Plan de Acción de Siem Reap. A través del INAVE hemos fortalecido nuestro rol como punto focal nacional, promovido la coordinación interinstitucional, hemos consolidado registros de víctimas, ampliado servicios de rehabilitación y salud mental y hemos impulsado programas de inclusión socioeconómica. Estas acciones contribuyen directamente al cumplimiento de los compromisos asumidos como Estados parte. Siguiente. La información confiable es fundamental para la toma de decisiones. Actualmente El Salvador registra 3.975 víctimas de minas antipersonales, incluyendo miembros de Fuerza Armada, excombatientes y población civil. Estos datos permiten identificar necesidades, planificar servicios y evaluar los avances en materia de asistencia y protección. Siguiente. Una de las principales lecciones aprendidas es que la sostenibilidad requiere apropiación nacional. En El Salvador, la asistencia a las víctimas es financiada principalmente mediante asignación de presupuesto nacional del Estado y recursos institucionales, complementando con la coordinación de sistemas de salud y protección social. Este modelo ha permitido garantizar continuidad y estabilidad en los servicios brindados. Siguiente. La inclusión social y económica constituye una de nuestras prioridades estratégicas. Durante el último año, más de 2.700 beneficiarios recibieron apoyo a través de programas que representaron una inversión cerca de los $4 millones. Estas acciones contribuyen a promover la autonomía, la dignidad y la igualdad de oportunidades para las víctimas y sus familias. Siguiente. El Salvador considera que los sobrevivientes no deben ser únicamente receptores de servicios, sino actores fundamentales en la toma de decisiones. Por ello, promovemos mecanismos de consulta, participación de organizaciones representativas, monitoreo de programas y procesos que permanecen dentro de la retroalimentación, asegurando que las poblaciones y las políticas públicas respondan a las necesidades reales de las personas beneficiarias. Siguiente. Nuestra experiencia demuestra que la asistencia a las víctimas es más efectiva cuando se integra en los sistemas nacionales de discapacidad, salud, protección social, educación y empleo. La coordinación interinstitucional, la participación de los sobrevivientes y el financiamiento sostenible son elementos esenciales para lograr resultados duraderos y garantizar que nadie quede atrás, que es nuestro objetivo. Siguiente. Para concluir, El Salvador reafirma su compromiso con la Convención sobre la Prohibición de Minas Antipersonales, la Convención sobre los Derechos de las Personas con Discapacidad y el Plan de Acción de Siem Reap. Continuamos y continuaremos fortaleciendo nuestros sistemas nacionales, promoviendo la inclusión y garantizando que todas las víctimas puedan ejercer plenamente sus derechos y participar en la igualdad de condiciones en la sociedad. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Nelson, for giving us an idea of how El Salvador has put the integrated approach into reality. I will now give the floor to Ms. Rejoice Mubika, Disability Specialist from the Disability Affairs Department of the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare of Zimbabwe, to tell us which national measures Zimbabwe has put in place, including legal frameworks and interministerial efforts to ensure long-term assistance to mine victims. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. In our introduction, Zimbabwe is committed to ensuring that victim assistance is integrated into national health, rehabilitation, social protection, education, and employment systems. Guided by the Persons with Disabilities Act, the UNCRPD, and the Siem Reap ENCO Action Plan, Zimbabwe adopts a rights-based and disability-inclusive approach to supporting landmine survivors. Through the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, Department of Disability Affairs, and collaboration with key stakeholders, Zimbabwe promotes sustainable, coordinated, and survivor-centered services that enhance inclusion, participation, and quality of life. On the institutional arrangements, there are national coordination bodies. Zimbabwe, as a state party, has designated the Ministry of Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare as the coordinating ministry responsible for the rights and welfare of persons with disabilities, including victim assistance. This ensures victim assistance is embedded across rehabilitation, social protection, and employment systems. Integration into disability frameworks. The newly enacted Persons with Disabilities Act, Chapter 1713, and the National Disability Policy, which is under review, and the CRPD commitments, they provide a strong foundation. Aligning victim assistance with these frameworks avoids duplication and ensures sustainability. We have decentralized service delivery, so they are embedded in social protection services at provincial and district levels through provincial social welfare offices, ensuring accessibility for rural landmine survivors. On strengthening coordination, there is an interministerial task force, a National Technical Coordination Committee, which meets quarterly to deliberate on disability inclusion issues. There are shared data systems, a national database of landmine survivors, which is available, shared by Zimbabwe Mine Action, and efforts are there to make it comprehensive to enable continuity of care and monitoring. We have development partners and civil society partnerships. Organizations like Mine Action Zimbabwe and operators are strengthening community outreach, and this enhances accountability mechanisms. on survivor participation. Landmine survivors engage in meaningful participation through victim assistance dialogues as they share their lived experiences, and community outreach programs conducted in districts in Zimbabwe also contribute to their participation. They also participate in explosive ordnance risk education sessions, and this enhances their understanding and spread awareness raised in the communities they reside in. On the financing models, victim assistance is embedded into line ministry budgets. The ministry has an assistance fund for persons with disabilities, and this ensures sustainability beyond donor cycles. There are partnerships with NGOs, private sector, and faith-based organizations to diversify funding sources. International cooperation. Donors align support with Zimbabwe's National Disability Acts and policies, shifting from short-term projects to strengthening national systems. We have multilateral cooperation, peer learning through benchmark visits with other countries, which accelerates adoption of best practices. Global frameworks, there is a linkage of victim assistance and SDGs, goal number 3, 4, 8, and 10, and CRPD reporting enhances legitimacy and coherence. Indicators and mechanisms. We can talk of access indicators, whereby we measure percentage of survivors accessing health, rehabilitation, education, and employment services. Equity indicators, urban versus rural service coverage, gender disaggregated data. Sustainability indicators, budget allocations, insurance coverage, long-term partnerships. Participation indicators, whereby we look at survivor involvement in planning, monitoring, and evaluation. Monitoring mechanisms, independent audits, integration into SDG and CRPD reporting frameworks. We look at the recommendations we can give. We can embed victim assistance into the national disability policies and acts and ensure provincial level implementation. Establish a national landmine survivor database integrated with health and social welfare systems to address the diverse and specific needs of landmine survivors. Expand community outreach through partnerships with development partners. Secure budget allocations within health and social welfare ministries to reduce donor dependency. Leverage multi-cooperation with SADC and international countries for peer learning and benchmark visits. To conclude, Zimbabwe remains committed to implementing the SIMRIP Anchor Action Plan and the Convention and ensuring that landmine survivors and their families enjoy full inclusion, dignity, and equal opportunities. Tatenda siyabonga. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rejoice, also for giving us some insight into how you integrated data systems with ensuring victim assistance is there as well. And I will now go online. We will go online to Ms. Suela Lala, Director of the Together Foundation Albania. Thank you for joining us. Please share your perspectives on accessibility, participation, and the lived realities of navigating national systems as a survivor. Please, Suela, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I'm Suela from Albania. I represent Disabled People's Organization. So I'll bring that kind of perspective. Just for some context, Albania is a small country in Southeastern Europe, or in the political term known as in the Western Balkans. And in 1999, during the war between in the so-known Kosovo War, the border of Albania was mined from the Serbians at the time, and it was a process of almost 10 years to demine the area. And in 2009, Albania was landmine free. So since then, no more also casualties. However, there were other during that time, there was like a movement of landmine survivors in the area of Kukas, where the border was mined, and it was quite strong in the initial years. But just to give you some context again, Kukas is one of the poorest areas in Albania, and therefore it went through very dynamic demographic changes in the sense that people moved. They moved within Albania to better areas to live and for employment, but they moved also outside the country. So in a way, also the landmine survivors movement shrinked and weakened. But another parallel development happened, though, even with Albania's approach to policy. We ratified the UN Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in 2013, and since then the government undertook policies that would be more inclusive and overarching all types of disabilities, including let's say landmine survivors. The first, I think, most important step to that is the adoption by Albania of the model of disability assessment through the international classification of functions, and through that, the outcome is translated into disability allowances and services, which apply also to landmine survivors. So, in that sense, it was a good development. We have the government has taken various measures in the last years, particularly last 5 years, to spread services, social services. We were quite weak in that regard. So now community services for persons with disabilities are widespread throughout the territory, including in the area where landmine survivors were mainly located. A lot of progress was done on inclusive education and different incentives also to follow higher education, like different funds to continue higher education or vocational training, etc. So that was also good progress. What was not good progress is the non-implementation of the law on promotion of employment that we have, that is supposed to let's say, provide a quota for the employment of persons with disabilities in the public and private sector. Implementation has been weak, even though the law has been revised and since 2019. So since then, we haven't seen much progress apart from efforts from disability organizations to promote and to try to do the intermediaries between businesses and persons with disabilities. I think another area that has been weak is the area of rehabilitation and assistive technology. There is a prosthetic center in Tirana that is governmentally funded, but is poorly funded, technically poorly equipped, and also with poor human capacities, and that leads to many survivors, those who can go and find and get assistive technology and prosthetics out of the country if possible. So the poorest of the poor, let's say, remain in the country for services, which is quite unfair. And Albania should be able to implement a system to have a priority list of assistive technology, and consequently also to have a system in place to provide it according to good international standards as a EU candidate aspiring country. So that and rehabilitation is another weak area, also, even though improvement has taken place in the health care system in the sense of improving accessibility, in the sense of including different professional figures such as physiotherapy and, I don't know, psychologists, and, improving the whole infrastructure around healthcare and access to healthcare. Albania still doesn't have a proper rehabilitation center for any kind of traumatic injury in place. And that's another, let's say, drawback, and that affects also the well-being and health of survivors, even to this day, to the current day. In terms of accessibility, efforts are continuing. Still, we consider implementation poor, and we want better implementation efforts. And the further you go from the capital, the Tirana, the poorer are the steps that are taken into this direction. So there, better measures should be taken. While there have been, particularly in the last year, as the country, let's say, is growing economically, an effort to improve and to raise disability allowances to have better disability allowances that allow for better standard of life. Other than that, I represent here civil society perspective, and in that sense, I would love to see more from my government in improving people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suela, for bringing also the survivor's perspective into the conversation. I'm now pleased to invite Ms. Elke Hottentot, Senior Advisor on Inclusion Policy and Strategy at Humanity and Inclusion, to tell us more from the perspective of supporting inclusive policies in affected communities and the impact of implementing IMAS 1310. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Very glad to be here. I'd like to start with an important reminder. As we all know, the term victims represents a diverse group of people. This group not only includes survivors, but also people killed by an explosive ordinance, often only because emergency medical services simply weren't available. This group also includes family members of people who lost their life, who survive, as well as affected communities. All have different needs over time, which require a wide range of sectors to be available. Next slide, please. Sustainable victim assistance depends, and I think we've heard that from my colleagues from Zimbabwe, Albania, El Salvador, on a very strong, coordinated national system. If we look at the state parties to the Mainben Treaty, 39 have victim assistance obligations, amongst which there are 30 that still also have clearance obligations. My presentation today will focus on those countries that still have both victim assistance and clearance obligations. In these countries, it is not only the health, rehabilitation, MHPSS, social protection, education and livelihood sectors that must do their part when it comes to victim assistance, but also the mine action sector has to work together with these other actors to ensure that there is an adequate response to the diverse needs of direct and indirect victims. Next slide, please. I'm going to focus on the comparative advantage of the mine action sector. National mine action authorities tend to institutionally be positioned closer to the central government decision-making structures than ministries traditionally responsible for service delivery in the areas of health and rehab and others. And the mine action sector's close proximity to affected communities prepositions it to facilitate access to services for people in need of those services in the areas in which they operate. So the mine action sector tends to work in EO-affected areas where people live with great needs, often greatly underserviced areas when it comes to services. And so the mine action sector has a unique position, essentially, to play a really important role to elevate victim assistance priorities, strengthen coordination, and influence broader policy and funding decisions, directly affecting whether a direct or indirect victim can access life-saving and other services. We sometimes hear it said that operators do not do, between quotation marks, victim assistance. However, victim assistance extends well beyond the delivery of services, such as prosthetics and orthotics and rehabilitation services. Under the International Mine Action Standard 1310, mine action actors engaged in land release, explosive ordnance risk education, and by extension, information management, contribute to victim assistance by identifying victims, supporting access to services through orientation and referrals, mapping of services, documenting gaps on the basis of analyzing the data between needs and available services, and as such generating evidence to secure funding through national budget and international cooperation, and to promote the need for accessible services in explosive ordnance affected areas. So the mine action sector as such plays a really crucial system strengthening role, yet the full potential of this IMAS remains underutilized. Next slide, please. The sector, when working in coordination with the broader system of services, of course, only for as long as it is active in a country, plays an important role in the development of a sustainable approach to victim assistance. And I'm particularly pleased to talk about this with you today because we are all part of this really important mine action sector, and from there's much we can do. So we have on the one hand the role of the mine action sector, and we have the role of the broader system of services, as we heard from our colleagues at the panel. This double sort of twinned approach is also referred to as the integrated approach to victim assistance. IMAS 1310 provides the framework for this. An integrated approach to victim assistance as such has one proverbial foot in the mine action sector and another in broader systems. For as long as the mine action sector is active in a country, it should do its part to ensure that the particular needs of people injured, survivors, and indirect victims are responded to by health services, rehabilitation, and MHES best providers, and that socioeconomic opportunities, work, education are accessible to them as well. Looking ahead to a future nearer or farer, dependent on the country, when Article 5 obligations have been reached, the broader system of services should ensure the provision of services for direct and indirect victims in the areas where they live. But we know this is not the reality faced by most victims today. So in those 30 countries that are state parties to the Mine Ban Treaty, the mine action sector has an important role in supporting the development of an adequate system of services. Now, we often hear talk about integrating victim assistance into development, health, other frameworks, but we need to be aware that this integration is not happening automatically. So what can and should the mine action sector do? It should integrate victim assistance also in its own operations by operationalizing what is called victim assistance specific efforts as articulated in IMAS 1310. Aside from identifying victims in need of services, referring them, collecting data to generate evidence, I once remember, and I'll just stop here for a moment, we did a workshop with UNMAS colleagues in New York where we analyzed mortality data. And from this we found that a very high percentage, about 30% of men and 40% of women, do not survive the accident. We find that the mortality rate is much higher in areas that are underserviced. And research has shown that only, forgive me for using that here, 10 to 12% of people will die if sort of primary, very locally available, often volunteer-provided emergency medical services are available. So we need to analyze the data we have sitting in IMSMA through the lens of the needs of victims. So the sector needs to be looking at the data it has and then to communicate it to authorities and actors responsible for providing services in explosive ordnance affected areas. We also need to share it with donors so that we can get more funding allocated to the delivery of these vital services. In this manner, the mine action sector can amplify the voice of victims to ensure their specific needs are understood and responded to by those authorities and actors responsible for life-saving and other services. So from where I sit, and I'm speaking from HI, in our experience, we find that our humanitarian mine action activities are really well placed to play this role. And of course, as a sector, since 2021, we are all mandated to carry out these victim assistance specific efforts as outlined in IMAS 1310. Next slide. So what has worked to support victim assistance in the long run? As my colleague from El Salvador and also from Zimbabwe said, national ownership is key. And we see three really important building blocks to create that. In HI's experience, one important one is nationalizing IMAS 1310. I was personally in Iraq to work with ministries and the mine action authorities in the country to develop a national mine action standard on victim assistance. We found that this has significantly increased the engagement of key line ministries, including health, education, social welfare. It created a collaborative space to develop the standard, and it allowed for institutional actors to gain a deeper, more operational understanding of the needs of this specific subgroup in their population, and also clarified their mandates. Of course, mine action operators were in the room, the National Mine Action Authority, survivor organizations. This process did not only clarify the role of the sector, but also help ministries to better understand and apply existing laws and policies, giving them responsibilities that might link them with the HMA sector and with other ministries. So we found that in Iraq, for example, within the mine action sector, it highlighted an urgent need to update standard victim forms and the need to train field officers on data collection and referral mechanisms. And in Colombia, where, as we see often in South America, there's a very strong legal framework for victims in the context of armed conflict, the process of developing a national mine action standard there pinpointed to specific implementation gaps at both national and regional levels. A second building block is developing a national action plan on victim assistance. HI has supported this in quite a number of countries, Uganda, Cambodia, Colombia, Afghanistan, and this really shows the convening power of developing such a plan. It strengthens national ownership, it clarifies the roles of the different ministries, and it facilitates multi-stakeholder engagement. It's essential, as victims really risk falling between sectors and mandates, particularly where coordination and accountability across actors and institutions remains weak. And here comes the third building block, is to set up an interministerial and multi-stakeholder coordination mechanism, which brings together mine action actors, authorities, operators, but also ministries, survivor organizations, also organizations of persons with disabilities, to create sustaining energy that raises the profile of the specific needs of people injured by explosive ordnance, survivors, and also indirect victims. Our work in Palestine, Ethiopia, Syria, Ukraine, Colombia, and Afghanistan really shows the value of supporting such a structured coordination mechanism. Next and almost final slide. I'd like to plant a seed here. We have seen through our operations in countries that national coordination and national efforts and national ownership are actually there in a lot of countries, but what we're missing is global coordination. It's very fragmented. There are important coordination efforts as such at the national level, but when we look at international coordination across the APMBC, the Convention on Cluster Munitions, and the Political Declaration on AWIPA, we see that it's quite fragmented and providing very limited support as such to victim assistance in explosive ordnance affected countries. So what can we here in Geneva, and those of us in New York, and across the humanitarian system in EO affected countries do to support this integrated approach to victim assistance? One more minute. Yeah, okay. Before I answer this question, let's take a step back. From the perspective of direct and indirect victims that are attempting to access services, distinctions between whether you're a landmine victim or a cluster munition victim or a victim of active bombardments are not meaningful in practice. Regardless of the type of blast injury that you may have sustained, or regardless of whether you're an indirect victim of a cluster munition or a landmine, The actual needs are rather the same, and the barriers faced as well when it comes to accessing rehab, psychosocial support, education, livelihood, and social protection. So I would like to issue a call here to create greater coherence between the APMBC, the Convention on Cluster Munitions, and the Political Declaration on AWIPA, so that we can better support national victim assistance efforts. A more coherent coordination mechanism at global level could really do the job, strengthening technical exchange, holding UN entities in humanitarian ecosystem accountable, and as such also provide better support to national authorities doing the work. HI sees value in such stronger global coordination. In this regard, one possible avenue worth exploring could be the establishment of a dedicated victim assistance advisory group, similar in spirit as the EOR-RE advisory group. This could really help strengthen coordination, technical exchange, and accountability across conventions and actors. Last slide, thank you. So what is my core message here? I really would like to call the mine action sector to fully implement IMAS 1310, connecting victims to services, strengthening coordination, and generating evidence to mobilize resources. If we do that, we maximize the chance that direct and indirect victims can access services that save their lives and enable them to live their lives with dignity, as we all deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elke, for explaining IMAS 1310, but also giving a call to all of us on how we can do better. So I thank all the panelists for these rich and insightful contributions, and now open the floor for questions and short interventions related to the theme of this panel, particularly on sustainability, integration into national services and systems, and practical approaches that may be useful for other states parties. And again, I kindly ask delegations to keep interventions brief and focused on the theme of this panel, as the victim assistance reporting segment will follow immediately afterwards. So the floor is open for any interventions and questions. And see the first on my list, Peru. Please, sir, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias. Voy a hablar en español. Quería referirme en principio a la presentación hecha por Elke Ottentot, a quien conozco hace varios años y sé el excelente trabajo que ella hace. Yo invito a todos a buscar cómo mejor servirnos de las estructuras que hay en los Mine Action Centers y las coordinaciones para poder ayudar a las víctimas. Por la experiencia que tengo en el Perú, si no fuera por los actores que participan en Mine Action, jamás se hubiera en realidad atendido a las víctimas, porque como bien lo dijo Elke, muchísimas veces la integración de la asistencia a las víctimas en programas de salud, de derechos humanos, no ha resultado. Tenemos que usar el marco de nuestra convención, de la Convención sobre Municiones de Racismo, de la Declaración de WIPA, e incluso agregaría el protocolo 5 de la Convención sobre ciertas armas convencionales. Yo creo que ese es el modo de proceder para poder dar la mejor atención a las víctimas, tomando en cuenta cómo la integración por sí sola de otros sectores no ha funcionado, salvo cuando el catalizador ha sido el Mine Action. Gracias. Gracias, Elke.
Thank you very much for pointing that out as well. Are there any other delegations that wish to take the floor at this stage? Oh, yes, I see ICBL CMC, please.
Thank you, Mrs. President, for this opportunity to express our ambitious. My name is Muwafaq Al-Khafaji. I am a survivor from Iraq. I am a member with International Campaign to Ban Land Mines. So we depend on our rights, it's not depend on the space or on the imagination, but we depend on the legislation, official legislations on Ottawa Treaty, as it in line with CRPD, SDG, and other declarations and rules like Siem Reap, Anchor Declaration. Also, the implementation 1310. So we consider to provide the instrument and tools to implement this treaty is very important. Also, the institutional preparation for integrate the survivors in branches of health, rehabilitation, education, and job opportunity. As we consider this, these are empowerment square. We don't want to ignore the survivors to don't reach to the opportunity for services, the survivor who live in the village or in the rural areas. We also ask for provide inclusive budgets to guarantee for integration for survivors. We interest to determine the mechanism, indicators to measure the successful and progressive. Also, we ask for rise the rule of the cooperation and international assistance for more sustainability. Also, finally, I would like to say that the conflicts and wars is negative effect for our life and dignity. But what happened yesterday, we feel more better life when we hear that the agreement between US and Iran will enter force. And we hope that Ukraine and Russia follow them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your intervention. Are there any further delegations that wish to take the floor? Due to the time passing, this is your opportunity now. Otherwise, we will go back to the panel and close the panel. So if there are any final questions or remarks, please do it now. I don't see anyone. Then I will go back to the panel now in the order we had before. If you want to react to some of the questions or also to some of your other panelists' remarks. So Nelson, I give you the floor with some closing thoughts, maybe. Thank you.
Sí, muchas gracias. Bueno, para concluir, quisiera solo mencionar que como país, como El Salvador, seguiremos fortaleciendo nuestros sistemas nacionales y como mencionábamos anteriormente, ya que El Salvador y el Instituto de Veteranos y Excombatientes incluye o abarca muchas poblaciones actualmente, pues estamos trabajando y promoviendo la inclusión y garantizando que todas las víctimas tengan la asistencia que merecen, ¿verdad? Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Nelson. Rejoice, do you have any final thoughts?
Oh, yes. Zimbabwe appreciates this panel discussion on victim assistance programming and for the rich and informative discussion. Today's dialogue has highlighted the importance of embedding victim assistance within national systems to ensure sustainability, ownership, and long-term impact. We have been reminded that strong institutions, coordinated partnerships, adequate resources, and meaningful survivor participation are essential to achieving our commitments under the Convention and the Siem Reap Anchor Action Plan. Zimbabwe remains committed to promoting the rights, dignity, inclusion, and well-being of landmine survivors and all persons with disabilities and their families. We look forward to continued collaboration with state parties, development partners, and survivor organizations as we work towards a world where no one and no place is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Rejoice. I was just told that our colleague Suela from Albania, unfortunately, is no longer online. So we will remain in the room. And Elke, I will give you the floor for some final thoughts.
Thank you. First of all, I really would like to congratulate Zimbabwe and El Salvador on their efforts to really mainstream victim assistance into national systems. I really think this is the answer in the long run. But I also would like to make a call that as long as the mine action sector is operational in a country, for it to do its part to support these efforts. And I'd like to echo my dear colleague and old friend's comment that, and I thought that was well chosen, that the mine action sector can truly play a catalyzing role because of its positioning, because of the areas in which it works. It is perfectly placed to support all the work done to promote access to services. So I just invite my colleagues here in the room to do our part. And thank you very much for allowing me on this panel. It's been great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with this, colleagues, I thank the panelists and also you for participating in the discussion. We will now continue with our next session. So I will invite my fellow committee members to come to the stage. And in doing so, I would also ask all of us once more to thank the panelists with a round of applause. Please allow for a minute or two for the next panel to be set up.
Thanks, Julia.
Excellencies, dear colleagues, Austria has had the honor to chair the Committee on Victim Assistance and to work with my fellow committee members from El Salvador, Sri Lanka, and Mozambique. I thank them for their continued support to the implementation of the committee's mandate and to advancing the rights and needs of mine and other explosive ordnance victims. Building on the important work carried out in 2025, this year, the committee continued with strengthening engagement with human rights and disability rights mechanisms, such as the Human Rights Council and the Committee on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, to deepen synergies and reinforce integration of victim assistance into broader national and international frameworks. To give 3 examples, in March, the committee hosted its annual Victim Assistance Retreat, bringing together Geneva-based stakeholders on victim assistance, disability rights, humanitarian affairs, and mine action. The retreat reaffirmed the importance of a cohesive multi-sectoral approach and highlighted persistent challenges in areas such as data collection, rehabilitation capacity, and accessibility. The committee also delivered a statement at the 61st Human Rights Council annual debate on the rights of persons with disabilities, welcoming the OHCHR report on disability inclusive infrastructure. We also emphasized that mine survivors face the same barriers as other persons with disabilities when environments remain inaccessible, and we encourage stronger alignment between national infrastructure policies and the CRPD. With access to rehabilitation, assistive technologies, and healthcare being at the core of victim assistance, the committee delivered an intervention at the World Health Assembly, highlighting the growing rehabilitation needs in mine-affected countries due to rising casualties, aging survivors, and limited services in rural and remote areas. We reaffirmed support for Resolution WHA 76.6 and encouraged investment in national rehabilitation systems and assistive technology. Ladies and gentlemen, mandated to review relevant information provided by states parties on implementation of the commitments contained in the CMRIP Anchor Action Plan, the committee has prepared preliminary observations on updates submitted by 25 states parties and developed general observations reflecting trends across all reports received. We thank all states parties that provided updates on their efforts to meet the needs and protect the rights of mine and other explosive ordnance victims. We also appreciate those that used the victim assistance checklist to establish baselines. We encourage all states parties to use this tool to support structured reporting and planning. Dear colleagues, of the 39 states parties with mine victims under the jurisdiction or control, as of 31 May 2026, 25 states parties submitted Article 7 reports, 21 of those providing updated information on victim assistance, and 4 states parties providing updated information on casualties. Allow me to highlight some of our key observations. 7 states parties reported no casualties in 2025. While some reports may have omitted data, most of these states succeeded in preventing new casualties, which the committee commends. 72% of the states parties that reported new casualties with the highest numbers recorded in the state of Palestine, Afghanistan, Yemen, Sudan, Iraq, Cambodia, and South Sudan. The committee stresses the importance of strengthening first aid, emergency response, and medical care to reduce fatalities and long-term impairments. 23 states parties reported identifying or working to identify mine victims, with most providing disaggregated data. The committee encourages all states parties to collect data on all mine victims, including survivors, affected families, and communities. All of the 21 states parties that provided an update this year reported having national focal points and/or coordination mechanisms, often linked to disability rights structures. The committee encourages continuity in leadership and stronger interministerial coordination, including active participation of mine survivors and the representative organizations in such mechanisms. 19 states parties reported progress on national action plans, including integration of victim assistance into broader disability, health, social protection, and humanitarian frameworks. The committee encourages measurable, inclusive, and time-bound plans. Rehabilitation and assistive technology remain uneven. While 76% of states parties reported on the availability of such services, 14 reported on the provision of assistive devices, and only 3 reported efforts to increase the affordability or national capacity in this regard. Psychological and psychosocial support remains one of the least reported areas. This year, 20 states parties reported on the availability of aspects of mental health and psychosocial support. only 8 reported on making use of the peer-to-peer support model. The committee encourages stronger integration of mental health into national systems and the use of a peer support model. Socioeconomic inclusion remains among the least reported. The committee urges improved reporting on all aspects of Action 37 in this regard. These observations are available on the Convention's website, and we will soon transmit them to your state with requests for additional information to ensure a comprehensive understanding of your national situations. For those that have not yet reported, we encourage you to provide updated information as soon as possible, including on efforts to align with the Siem Reap Anchor Actions 30 to 39. With this, allow me to pass the floor to Ms. Sarita Ranatunga of Sri Lanka, who leads the committee's work on gender, to say a few words on gender equality in victim assistance. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Julia. Also thanks to the experts who presented earlier on their efforts to sustain assistance to mine victims. It is encouraging to learn about all positive developments. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is encouraging to see gender and diversity is well integrated into the work of this convention. Sri Lanka is honored to serve as the gender focal point of the Committee on Victim Assistance. Allow me to share a summary observation. Dear colleagues, consideration of gender and diverse needs and experiences of people in affected communities are among the key principles in victim assistance efforts. The Siem Reap Anchor Action Plan, particularly Actions 1, 5, 31, 32, and 37, reinforces the need for inclusive, right-based approaches that reflect the different needs, rights, challenges, and barriers faced by women, men, girls, and boys, including persons with disabilities and those living in rural and remote areas. The committee appreciates the state parties that reported efforts to disaggregate data by age and gender, and those that adopted more inclusive planning and coordination frameworks. This year, 23 state parties provided updated information on casualties, mine and other explosive ordnance victims, with most indicating that casualty data is now disaggregated by age and gender. It is encouraging to learn that Algeria, Croatia, and Serbia also collect information on indirect victims such as affected family members. We also note that 20 state parties reported on the development or implementation of national action plans, many of which integrate victim assistance into broader disability, health, or social protection frameworks. 12 state parties reported efforts to include survivors or their representative organizations in relevant plans and policies. These are important steps, yet participation of female survivors, women and girls with disability requires further strengthening. The committee commends the 14 state parties that reported on efforts to lift physical, social, and cultural barriers, and encourages all state parties to deepen this work, including by addressing the intersectional impacts of conflict, poverty, disability, and geographic isolation. Now, allow me to reiterate the Committee on Victim Assistance recommendations to all state parties implementing victim assistance, as well as organizations active in supporting the state parties in this regard or involved in delivering assistance to affected communities. The committee recommends to collect and use gender, age, disability disaggregated data to inform inclusive policies and implementation. Ensure the full, equal, and effective participation of mine and other EO survivors, especially girls, women, and those in remote or marginalized communities, in all stages of planning, implementation, monitoring, and reporting. Aligning victim assistance with Women, Peace and Security Agenda in the Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the Sustainable Development Goals. invest more resources, and foster partnerships that prioritize and strengthen inclusive and accessible right-based assistance. Also, we like to encourage the state parties in a position to assist to consider gender, age, disability in their cooperation and assistance when supporting mine action activities, particularly projects that assist mine and other EO victims. We look forward to continuing our engagement with your delegations to improve gender equality and the consideration of diverse experiences of mine survivors, affected families, and communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarita. Now, allow me to open the floor for interventions from states parties implementing victim assistance commitments. I kindly request that your interventions be kept to no more than 5 minutes. We already have a speakers list, and the first 3 speakers on my list are Angola, to be followed by Cambodia and El Salvador. So Angola, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Our intervention is based on 4 points, namely sustainable assistance to victims, institutional arrangement, interministerial and multisectorial coordination, and victim participation into national systems. To ensure the sustainability, the next, please. Yes. Distribution of responsibility involving civil society organization, allocation of resources from national budget, and ANAM is the focal point, and incorporation of VA in the National Development Plan 2023-2027. Next. Angola defined the specific responsibilities of each key partner. As you can see, all minister, public organization, institutions, and also civil society, each one with the specific responsibility. Next, please. To effective institutional arrangement, we include the mine victims in the border group of services for people with disabilities. And the last one is the diversity assistance services across all services unities in our country. Next, please. Of the total number of people who benefit from medical assistance and rehabilitation, more than 7,000 amputees, including mine victims. Next, please. Regarding rehabilitation, more than 1,000 people benefited from various quality services with several providers. Next, please. As a new issue, to prevent a future adult from having physical disabilities, the Evangelical Baptist Church of Angola, partner of ANAM, with the support of Miracle Fit, is implementing a free treatment program for children with congenital clubfoot. Next, please. From 2025 to date, we recorded 26 mine accidents, resulting in 63 injuries and 19 deaths, unhappily. Next, please. In interministerial and multisectorial coordination, we are revitalizing revitalization of provincial coordination, development of the national plan for victim assistance, and also establishment of focal point in each key partner. Also, we are involving all victims and their organization in planning, evaluation, and the last one, the thematic meeting we are organizing with different partners. Next, please. The last point, incorporation of victim participation in the national system program. We are, next please, as you can see, the engagement of organization of people with disabilities. Next please. Some children with disabilities benefit from school meals program implemented by the government, please. Kwenda program implemented by the Angolan government with the external support is also assisting victim persons. Next, please. We are also implementing the PREI, the informal economic refraining program, and also we have a considerable number of big victims benefiting from this program. Next, please. Many people with disabilities benefit from the National Program for Local Development and Poverty Alleviation. It is a government program implemented by the Social Affairs Ministries. Thank you. Next, please. As we can see, FASH is an institution now for local development. Here also an important social program implemented by the Angolan government with also the external support to construct infrastructures like schools, health center, water wells, and so on. Next, please. The Food for Work program important project directly and indirectly benefited by people with disabilities. Here, as you can see, the production of potato, national potato with the fazenda, a big fazenda called Girasol. This program also is benefited to benefit a lot of persons with disability, including many victim persons. The last one is a rural school program implemented by a national organization, ADRA. Also, we have a lot of considerable number of victims benefiting from this project as a social component. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Angola. I now give the floor to Cambodia.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Royal Government of Cambodia, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the opportunity to share the progress Cambodia has made in fulfilling its commitment to assist mines and explosive remnant of war victims as outlined in the Siem Reap Angkor Action Plan. Action 30. The CMAA continues to serve as the central coordinating body, bringing together governments, ministry, subnational authority, civil society organizations, and the private sector to advance victim assistance efforts. Together, they deliver a comprehensive range of services spanning immediate data collection and emergency medical care alongside vital long-term physical rehabilitation, psychological support, vocational training, and rights advocacy for survivors. Action 31. Cambodia has established a robust legal framework to protect survivors and persons with disability. These include the 2024 adoption of the Cambodian Mine Action Standard on Victim Assistance and the National Disability Strategy Plan 2024-2028, the National Mine Action Policy 2026 to 2030 adopted in April 2026, and the guideline on victim assistance to be adopted July this year. Action 22, the CMA is developing a unified victim data collection system. Currently, the historical database records more than 65,000 casualties since 1979, with 39 new casualties documented in 2025. Additionally, a survivor-led 2025 quality of life survey successfully interviews with 1,714 persons with disability, including 1,255 landmine survivors, to ensure that assistance program and government support remain responsive to the evolving needs. Action 33. In 2025, the CMA and the Cambodian Red Cross deploys immediate food, equipment, and financial relief to all 39 new survivors. Furthermore, 28,000 persons with disability, including 9,000 mine survivors, receive medical treatment, including 98,000 specialized physiotherapy sections across 11 national centers. Madam Chair, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, on Action 34, to minimize service access and eliminate institutional gap, the CMA is finalizing a national referral mechanism and service mapping directory. On Action 35, comprehensive psychophysical rehabilitation service reach out 27,000 individuals, including 9,000 mine survivors. A national center successfully managed the fabrication, customized fitting, and routine repair of vital mobility aids like prosthetic, autistic, wheelchair, and tricycle. Action 36, addressing mental well-being, the CMA provides peer-to-peer psychological counseling to 2,000 individuals. Concurrently, the Truma Care Foundation provides vocational training and set up capital to 500 survivor medical eye care to 548 people, and first aid training to more than 800 local health volunteers. Action 37, our community empowerment program completed 156 mobile repair missions directly helping more than 7,000 people, established 660 self-help groups, and conduct more than 5,000 tailored evaluations. Additionally, the Maybank Foundation partnership trained 1,424 persons with disability and 578 mine survivors in business development to build lasting financial independence. Action 38. The National Committee for Disaster Management has integrated landmine survivors into national safety plans. This action plan guarantees the specific protection and inclusion of survivors during armed conflict, environmental crisis, and natural disaster in line with international humanitarian law. Action 39. Cambodia is actively removing societal barriers by shifting essential service to remote border area, providing vocational training, seed grant to challenge local stigma, and structural investing server into provincial planning committee to give them a direct voice in their own future. Despite those achievements, significant challenge remain. Resource gap continue to affect the provision of emergency assistance or long-term rehabilitation, occupational therapy, and localized data reporting. Cambodia therefore call upon all development partners to continue providing technical and financial assistance so we can ensure a life of true dignity and equality for all. Cambodia remains unwavering in its commitment to improving the quality of life of mind abuse survivors and persons with disability. Finally, Cambodia extends its deepest gratitude to all development partners, donors, including the Convention ISU, for their vital ongoing partnership. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I now have El Salvador to be followed by South Sudan. Sir, you have the floor.
Señora Presidente, dado que esa es la primera intervención de mi delegación, deseo expresar nuestras más sinceras felicitaciones a la embajadora Loambia por su elección como presidenta de la reunión de los Estados partes. Asimismo, reconocemos la valiosa labor de Austria en su calidad de presidente del Comité de Asistencia a las Víctimas, del cual El Salvador se honra en formar parte. Mi país reitera su firme compromiso en la plena y efectiva implementación de las disposiciones de la Convención y los compromisos contenidos en el Plan de Acción de Siem Reap, condenando categóricamente el uso de estas armas. Particularmente reconocemos que la asistencia a las víctimas constituye un pilar fundamental de la acción humanitaria y una responsabilidad permanente en los Estados parte en materia de derechos humanos. Si bien El Salvador fue declarado oficialmente libre de minas antipersonales en el 2009, ello no ha disminuido nuestra determinación de honrar los compromisos asumidos con las personas sobrevivientes y sus familias. A través del INAVE, entidad nacional responsable de esta área, El Salvador continúa realizando importantes esfuerzos para garantizar el acceso a servicios de salud, rehabilitación física, apoyo psicológico, educación, formación profesional y oportunidades de empleo para las personas sobrevivientes de artefactos explosivos, así como para las personas con discapacidad y sus familiares. Para El Salvador, la asistencia a las víctimas debe de ser fundamental en los principios de inclusión, accesibilidad, no discriminación, dignidad humana y participación significativa de las personas con discapacidad en los procesos de toma de decisiones, donde la recolección de información precisa y actualizada resulta indispensable para diseñar respuestas sostenibles, inclusivas y centradas en las personas. En consecuencia, apoyamos la integración de la asistencia a las víctimas en los sistemas nacionales de salud, protección social y desarrollo, que favorezcan la plena inclusión social y económica a las personas afectadas. Consideramos prioritario continuar fortaleciendo el intercambio de experiencias y buenas prácticas, la cooperación internacional, la transferencia de conocimientos y tecnologías, con el fin de respaldar los esfuerzos que realizan los Estados partes para incluir sus obligaciones en virtud de la Convención, especialmente en el ámbito de atención integral a las víctimas. La solidaridad internacional sigue siendo un elemento indispensable para alcanzar los objetivos comunes de esta Convención. Agradecemos el apoyo recibido por la Unidad de Apoyo a la Implementación y el financiamiento de la Unión Europea por la realización del diálogo regional sobre asistencia a víctimas y la implementación del artículo 5 en San Salvador, que concluyó con recomendaciones concretas para fortalecer nuestros esfuerzos en la asistencia a víctimas, la participación significativa de los sobrevivientes y la implementación coordinada del plan de acción. Señora Presidenta, permítame concluir felicitando a Líbano por su adhesión a la Convención como nuevo Estado parte, así como a Croacia por haber completado exitosamente sus obligaciones de desminado. El Salvador reafirma su firme compromiso de seguir trabajando junto a los Estados parte, las organizaciones internacionales, la sociedad civil y demás actores relevantes para avanzar en la implementación de la Convención, su plan de acción y especialmente para asegurar que los derechos de las víctimas continúen ocupando un lugar central en nuestros esfuerzos colectivos. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, El Salvador. I now give the floor to South Sudan, followed by Sri Lanka. You have the floor.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me start by thanking the Presidency for the 23rd meeting of state parties, the Chair for Victim Assistance, and the Implementing Support Unit of Mind Band Convention for organizing this crucial meeting in the margin of intersessional meeting for the state parties. So the Republic of South Sudan reaffirms its victim assistance commitment, and it's among the countries that have registered significant numbers of landmine and explosive remnants of war survivors who are still in need. The country has made commitment to provide victim assistance through the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention as follows. As of the end of May 2026, we have recorded 5,354 mine and explosive remnants of war injured and killed. It's disaggregated in our report. There has been continuous awareness and advocacy to promote disability rights through training, campaigns, dialogues, and public engagement to the other states in South Sudan. There's established quarterly coordination meeting through Disability Inclusion Technical Coordination Working Group at both national and the state level in coordination with all organizations of persons with disability, government stakeholders, international NGOs, and UN agencies. Jonglei State and Upper Nile State still experience mine and explosive remnants of war accidents that require safety and functional health facility. However, they are attacked by ongoing conflicts, especially in January and February, whereby MSF Hospital was badly attacked, where the main warehouse was destroyed and there were loss of critical medical supplies. A referral pathway is in place where the Ministry of Social Welfare, Education, Health, and other international NGOs, organizations of persons with disability, and the government work to ensure persons with disability are directed to get the services through the recommended channels. There are 3 physical rehabilitation centers in Juba, Wau, and Rumbek under the Ministry of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, implemented by ICRC. It will continue to offer assistive devices, physiotherapy services to both mine survivors and other persons with disability. And there is a continuous outreach to the states to do assessment to rural remote areas where there are no services, and there is psychosocial support that has been prioritized across all sectors to ensure access to services by all by the Ministry of Health. There are some socioeconomic empowerment opportunities for mine and explosive remnants of war survivors and other persons with disability which have remained low since 2020. This support includes small business management, vocational training, and sponsorship to school children and other social protection programs. There is involvement of the Ministry of Child and Social Welfare and the Organization of Persons with Disability as part of Task Force for Disaster Preparedness and Management that has raised the concern for the protection of persons with disability in case of conflict, flooding, drought, and displacement by all sectors in the country. And there is continued advocacy by organizations of persons with disability, the Ministry of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, and partners to create physical access to all institutions of the government, private sector, and the public sectors. And National Mine Action Authority continues to cooperate with the Ministry of Gender, Child and Social Welfare, Organization of Persons with Disability, and other government institutions to ensure landmine survivors are not left behind in government policies, frameworks, and in the plans to meet the wide disability needs in the country. Despite these efforts, there are significant evident gaps in the service for both landmine survivors and older persons with disability. Most of the intervention focuses only in urban area living rural population. There is gaps in the policies. The action plan is still a draft, and there are also limited capacity in place, limited resources, as well as limitation in the data concerning the other types of persons with disability. This hampers advocacy and policy development. For effective implementation of the conventional obligations, South Sudan seeks more financial assistance from the government and donors to address the needs of landmine survivors and other persons with disability. In conclusion, I would like to thank the organizers once again and appreciate the sponsorship that has enabled my meaningful participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now invite Sri Lanka to be followed by Peru. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members, distinguished participants. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Engineer Kumdulal, National Director, National Mine Action Center, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka remains firmly committed to fulfilling its obligation under the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention and advancing the implementation of the Siem Reap Action Plan, particularly in the area of victim assistance. As a state party to both the Anti-Personnel Mine Ban Convention and the Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities, Sri Lanka recognizes the importance of ensuring the survivors of anti-personnel mines and explosive ordnance are able to access the services and opportunities necessary to lead dignified and productive lives. While significant progress has been achieved in mine clearance and reducing the threat posed by explosive ordnance, survivors continue to face challenges related to medical care, rehabilitation services, assistive devices, livelihood support, housing assistance, physiosocial well-being, and access to social protection programs. Madam Chair, in line with Sri Lanka National Mine Action Completion Strategy 2023-2027, the National Mine Action Center, through the National Victim Assistance Committee, initiated the Victim Assistance Needs Assessment Survey in 2024. The survey focused on victims recorded in the National IMSMA database since 2010 and aims to identify priority needs and gaps in service provision. To date, a 20% sample assessment covering 41 of the 207 recorded victims residing in the northern and eastern provinces has been completed. Preliminary findings highlight gaps in disability and rehabilitation services, limited livelihood and housing support, weak referral mechanisms, and the need for stronger integration of mine and explosive ordnance victims into mainstream government welfare and the disability programs. Sri Lanka recognizes the sustainable victim assistance requires a transition from stand-alone support mechanism to mainstream inclusion with the national systems. Accordingly, our priorities include strengthening inter-ministerial coordination, improving data collection and monitoring system, enhancing referral pathways among relevant service providers, and promoting the inclusion of survivors within national disability, housing, livelihood, and social protection programs. As part of these efforts, Physiosocial well-being program for mine and explosive ordnance victims is scheduled to be implemented in Kilnochi district in July 2026 in collaboration with the Regional District of Health Service. Chair Madam. President, Chair Madam. Sri Lanka is honored to serve on the Committee on Victim Assistance for the period 2025-2026. Through this role, we remain committed to sharing experiences, promoting good practices, and supporting collective efforts to strengthen victim assistance implementation under the Convention. At the national level, the National Victim Assistance Committee, chaired by the Director of Mine Action, continues to function as the principal coordination mechanism for stakeholder engagement, policy coherence, and monitoring of victim assistance activities. We remain committed to further strengthening this mechanism to ensure effective and sustainable support of survivors. Sri Lanka expresses its appreciation to donor states, international organizations, and implementing the partners for their continued support and cooperation in order to save many lives and enhance in their livelihood. We reframe our commitment to ensuring that no mine or explosive ordnance victim is left behind and to advancing their full inclusion in society through coordinated and sustainable nation efforts. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Peru, followed by Burundi. You have the floor, sir.
Muchas gracias. Hablaré en español. Señora Presidenta, distinguidos delegados, el Perú reafirma su compromiso con la Convención de Ottawa y con la asistencia a las víctimas de minas antipersonal. En concordancia con el Plan de Acción de SIMRIP, el Centro Peruano de Acción contra las Minas Antipersonal, Contraminas, coordina la asistencia a las víctimas y supervisa el cumplimiento de nuestras obligaciones internacionales. Contraminas se encuentra dentro del Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores. A la fecha se registran 348 víctimas, de las cuales 268 viven con secuelas, más de la mitad son menores de 50 años. El Estado peruano procura garantizar la igualdad de oportunidades en inclusión económica y protección social sin discriminación alguna. La información de las víctimas ha sido remitida al Consejo Nacional para la Integración de la Persona con Discapacidad, asegurando su incorporación en el Registro Nacional. Contamos con un marco legal apropiado encabezado por la Ley General de la Persona con Discapacidad, que armoniza nuestra normativa con la Convención sobre los Derechos de las Personas con Discapacidad. Este marco, junto con las políticas públicas y programas sociales, promueve una atención integral. Las víctimas civiles acceden a servicios del Seguro Integral de Salud, mientras que las víctimas de las Fuerzas Armadas y Policía Nacional, generalmente desminadores, reciben atención en sus hospitales institucionales. Contraminas, el Centro Nacional, coordina con instituciones de salud y rehabilitación como el Instituto Nacional de Rehabilitación y el Instituto Nacional de Oftalmología, brindando apoyo físico y psicológico con especial atención a las víctimas civiles. Desde inicios de 2025 hemos iniciado seguimiento directo y ya hemos contactado a 45 víctimas, identificando sus necesidades de rehabilitación y situación socioeconómica. Señora Presidenta, la atención a las víctimas y su reintegración socioeconómica constituyen una prioridad nacional. Por ello, el Perú solicita la renovación del apoyo de la cooperación internacional orientado a 1. Capacitación en nuevas tecnologías aplicadas a prótesis y terapias. 2. Acceso a insumos para prótesis y dispositivos de movilidad asistida. 3. Proyectos de reinserción socioeconómica plena. Y 4. Intercambio de buenas prácticas entre Estados partes, como lo venimos haciendo en el marco de este comité y de las reuniones interseccionales. El Perú trabaja con transparencia y responsabilidad, convencido de que la solidaridad internacional es esencial para asegurar la dignidad, bienestar y plena integración de las víctimas. Por último, quiero hacer referencia a la norma 1310 sobre asistencia a las víctimas en los Mine Action Standards. Vamos a revisarla con detenimiento. Pensamos que puede ser un marco excelente para trabajar en este pilar de la lucha antiminas dentro del marco de la Convención de Ottawa. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Burundi, to be followed by the State of Palestine. Burundi, you have the floor.
Madame la Présidente, Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, au nom du gouvernement du Burundi et à mon nom propre, je commence par féliciter le Liban et la Croatie pour les étapes franchies actuellement. Il est à encourager tous les pays non encore faisant partie de la Convention pour y adhérer. Concernant l'assistance aux victimes, au Burundi, comme vous le savez, le Burundi a été touché par des conflits armés, laissant derrière eux des mines terrestres et des restes explosifs de guerre. Après que le pays s'est acquitté de la tâche de destruction des mines antipersonnelles dans les zones minées, le 1er avril 2014, il a continué les programmes d'assistance et de coopération internationale. Bien que des progrès aient été réalisés, les conséquences des mines restent un fardeau important pour les individus et les communautés, nécessitant des ressources continues et une attention internationale pour renforcer la coopération dans ce domaine. Comme cadre légal et institutionnel, le Burundi a ratifié la Convention d'Ottawa sur l'interdiction de l'emploi, du stockage, de la protection des transferts des mines antipersonnelles et sur les destructions. Ratification aussi de la Convention des Nations Unies sur le droit des personnes handicapées, mise en place d'une politique et stratégie nationale sur les droits des personnes handicapées, mise en place d'un comité national sur les droits des personnes handicapées, pour n'en citer que cela. Comme situation actuelle, après des mobilisations et réformes des codes de défense et de sécurité, l'on a enregistré 496 cas d'handicap sévères et très sévères, victimes des mines et autres engins non explosés. Le rapport de la Direction générale de la protection civile et de la gestion des catastrophes de 2023 sur la situation des victimes des mines a identifié 614, mais le pays en compte une multitude parmi les personnes vivant avec handicap. De nouvelles données sur les victimes et personnes vivant avec handicap existent et sont en attente de publication. Comme type d'assistance, il y a l'octroi, je peux citer l'octroi gratuit des équipements de mobilité, l'appui en activités génératrices de revenus aux centres et associations de personnes handicapées par an, assistance en soins spécialisés pour les personnes handicapées, par exemple 200 enfants hydrocéphales appuyés à avoir accès aux opérations chirurgicales et aux drains. Construction des maisons dans 13 sites aux victimes des mines et autres engins non explosés, construction de 18 centres et écoles de métiers, plus de 1515 maisons construites, formation aux divers métiers, appui annuel financier aux associations des personnes vivant avec handicap, octroi en vivres et non vivres chaque année, pour n'en citer que cela. Suite à ces actions multiformes, les personnes vivant avec handicap à travers l'organisation ont pu être autonomes à travers la productivité et partant veiller au bien-être de leur famille en général. Les centres pour personnes handicapées ont été à mesure de s'autofinancer sans beaucoup compter sur les partenaires qui sont presque inexistants pour le moment. Ces personnes bénéficient des soins de santé. D'autres actions sont en cours pour une mise en œuvre progressive du plan d'action de ces mérites d'encore, suivant les moyens disponibles. Comme défi, L'assistance aux victimes des mines au Burundi, dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre de la Convention d'Ottawa, présente des défis. Infrastructures de santé déficientes, surtout dans les zones rurales. Manque de matières premières pour la fabrication des appareils orthopédiques. Insuffisance du personnel qualifié en matière de production des appareils orthopédiques. Insuffisance d'infrastructures adaptées pour faciliter le déplacement des personnes vivant avec handicap. Stigmatisation sociale, etc. Comme perspective d'avenir, il y a accélération de la mise à jour des textes légaux afin de mettre en œuvre le plan d'action de CIMRIP activité déjà planifiée par la primature suivant le nouveau découpage administratif à partir de 2025. Renforcement des capacités des professionnels de santé et des travailleurs sociaux. Comme collaboration, renforcer la coopération bilatérale avec les autres pays, travailler avec les ONG et les organisations internationales dans une approche intégrée. Comme plaidoyer, recherche des ressources nécessaires pour financer les activités de protection, d'assistance et d'autonomie financière aux victimes des mines et personnes vivant avec handicap. Comme conclusion, le gouvernement du Burundi ne ménage aucun effort pour assurer la mise en œuvre effective de la Convention d'Ottawa à travers le plan d'action CIMRIP encore, par une mise à jour des politiques et stratégies relatives. Ces mises à jour sont en cours. Lever progressivement les défis qui persistent encore, bien que des progrès notables aient été réalisés. Exemple, la publication de nouvelles données recensées récemment sera faite dans les meilleurs délais. Sensibiliser la communauté internationale à développer des coopérations bilatérales dans le cadre de la Convention. Assurer un financement durable afin de renforcer les infrastructures de base en charge psychosociale qui sont des fers de lance pour garantir un soutien efficace et adapté aux besoins spécifiques des victimes de mines antipersonnelles et des personnes vivant avec handicap. Améliorer aussi la coordination entre différents acteurs, identifier et prévoir au moins une école tenant compte du handicap dans chaque province du pays, suivant les besoins exprimés par les services habilités. Je m'en arrête là, mais il y a une présentation plus détaillée qui parle de l'assistance des personnes victimes des mines antipersonnelles et des personnes vivant avec handicap en général au Burundi. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the State of Palestine, followed by Zambia. You have the floor.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السيدات والسادة، الحضور الكريم، في هذه الجلسة نجتمع لنستحضر معاناة ضحايا الألغام والمخلفات الحربية الذين لا تزال آثار النزاعات تلاحقهم وتحصد الأرواح وتخلف الإعاقات وتقيد فرص الحياة الكريمة، مؤكدين مسؤوليتنا المشتركة في دعم وحماية المجتمعات من هذا الخطر المستمر. الحضور الكريم، إننا نؤمن بضرورة ضمان تمتع ضحايا الألغام بحقوقهم على قدم المساواة مع الآخرين من ذوي الإعاقة وما ينظم حقوقهم من قوانين. وبالتأكيد نؤكد على خطة عمل سامريب التي تدعو لدمج المساعدة في السياسات والخطط والميزانيات والأطر القانونية الوطنية، خاصة في مجالات التأهيل والصحة النفسية والتعليم والتوظيف. لهذا فإن التزامنا باتفاقية حظر الألغام ضد الأفراد يشكل أساساً مهماً في هذه المسيرة. ولضمان استدامة الدعم فإننا نؤكد على أهمية اعتماد أنظمة وطنية قوية وسياسات شاملة. وانطلاقاً من مسؤوليتنا الإنسانية والوطنية، عملنا بالشراكة مع دائرة الأمم المتحدة للأعمال المتعلقة بالألغام على إعداد خطة استراتيجية شاملة تقدم دعما منظما لضحايا الألغام، وقد طورنا نظام إحالة متكامل يضمن سلسلة إجراءات لتحديد احتياجاتهم بدقة. حضور الكريم، لا يخفى عليكم ما مرت به وما تمر به في فلسطين من أحداث دامية وصراع مستمر الذي يولد جملة من التحديات، منها غياب آلية المسح وتحديد احتياجاتهم، صعوبة الوصول إلى الضحايا خاصة في المناطق النائية أو المتأثرة بالنزاعات، محدودية الموارد اللازمة لتقديم الدعم النفسي والاجتماعي والاقتصادي، غياب مشاريع التنمية المستدامة التي تعنى بتمكين ضحايا وأسرهم. لذا نعول على تعاونكم لمواصلة جهود حماية الضحايا وتعزيز برامج المساعدة والتأهيل وتطوير استجابات وطنية فعالة تكفل حقوقهم وتصون كرامتهم وتسهم في بناء مجتمعات أكثر أمناً واستقراراً. ختاماً، نجدد التزامنا بدعم الضحايا وندعو إلى تعزيز التعاون والشراكات لضمان حياة كريمة وآمنة لهم ولأسرهم. شكراً.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Zambia, to be followed by Sudan. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Victim assistance remains a national priority for Zambia. Survivors of anti-personnel mines and explosive remnants of war in our country are not evenly distributed, which results in varying needs across regions and communities. To ensure an effective, equitable, and sustainable response, Zambia is strengthening coordination within existing government structures to develop a nationally owned program that integrates health, rehabilitation, psychological support, livelihood inclusion, and social protection. Chairperson, in line with sustaining assistance through stronger national systems and inclusive policies, and the Siem Reap Anchor Action Plan 2025-2029, Zambia is committed to fully integrating victim assistance into national policies, plans, budgets, and legal frameworks related to disability rights, rehabilitation, mental health, education, employment, development, and poverty reduction. In order to achieve these goals, we plan to undertake the following: strengthen the Zambia Mine Action Center in its mandate as the national focal point in coordinating victim assistance, oversee its integration into broader national frameworks, and work with survivors and their representative organizations to develop an inclusive, time-bound national disability action plan. Second, strengthen integration of victim assistance within national mechanisms through implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, while ensuring survivors access their rights on an equal basis with others. And thirdly, promote interministerial and multi-sectoral coordination to ensure victims' needs and rights are addressed through policy, legal frameworks, and budgets across sectors. Chairperson, as a first step towards a more robust evidence-based response, Zambia is currently undertaking a national validation exercise to update and verify survivor data. This will inform a comprehensive needs assessment to guide service planning, resource allocation, and monitoring, enabling tailored assistance to survivors and their families. In addition, Zambia is engaged in discussions with various key cooperating partners to possibly establish a center that will manufacture artificial limbs and assistive devices. If realized, this center will expand national prosthetic capacity, create skills, and more importantly, uplift the livelihood of survivors through access to timely, quality rehabilitation services while strengthening national self-reliance and regional cooperation. Chairperson, Zambia appeals for support among states parties, international organizations, civil society, and donors towards the national validation and needs assessment exercise the development and resourcing of a government-led integrated victim assistance program, and an inclusive time-bound disability action plan, and initiatives that build local capacity for rehabilitation, assistive technology, and livelihood support, including the proposed prosthetics center. We remain committed to promoting inclusive dialogue, transparency, and practical cooperation to ensure that survivors' needs drive our collective work. We look forward to working closely with all partners to translate commitments into measurable improvements in the lives of victims and their communities. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Sudan, to be followed by Tajikistan. Sudan, you have the floor.
السادة الحضور بكل مقاماتهم السامية، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أقف أمامكم اليوم في هذا اللقاء الذي لا يعكس فقط التزامنا المهني، بل يجسد مسؤولياتنا الأخلاقية والإنسانية تجاه فئة عزيزة من أبناء وبنات وطننا العزيز السودان. فئة عانت بصمت وتحملت كلفة الحرب والنزاعات وما خلفته من ألغام ومخلفات حربية تركت آثارها المدمرة على الأفراد والمجتمعات. إن الألغام ومخلفات الحرب ليست مجرد بقايا صامتة للنزاعات، بل هي تهديد مستمر للحياة والأمن والتنمية. منذ بداية برنامج مكافحة الألغام في السودان وحتى يونيو من هذا العام، بلغ عدد الضحايا المسجلين أكثر من 3000 ضحية، منهم 2292 مصاب و709 قتيل. ولعل أكثر ما يؤلمنا هو ما يتعرض له الأطفال، فقد سجل السودان خلال هذه الفترة من بداية العام 2026 وحتى يونيو من هذا العام 11 حادث أسفر عنه 28 ضحية من الأطفال نتيجة انفجارات مخلفات الحرب، ومن بين هؤلاء 21 طفلا أصيبوا بجروح وإعاقات مختلفة، فيما فقد 7 أطفال حياتهم متأثرين بإصاباتهم. وما يزيد من صعوبة المشهد أن هذه الأرقام تمثل فقط الحالات التي تم الإبلاغ عنها وتوثيقها، بينما لا تزال هنالك حالات أخرى لم يتم تسجيلها في قاعدة بيانات المركز القومي لمكافحة الألغام أميزما. ورغم التحديات الكبيرة، تواصل الجهود الإنسانية تقديم الدعم للمتضررين، فقد تم توفير الرعاية الطبية الطارئة والمستمرة لأكثر من 100 طفل من ضحايا الحرب والمخلفات الحربية بدعم من اليونيسيف ومنظمة سيف ذا كيلدرين. أما في مجال التأهيل البدني، فإن السودان يواجه تحديا كبيرا، حيث لا تعمل سوى 7 مراكز تأهيل بدني في مختلف الولايات وليست بسعة كاملة، بينما تعرضت مراكز أخرى للتضرر أو التدمير الكامل نتيجة النزاعات والأوضاع الطارئة. ومع ذلك تواصل الجهود الوطنية والإنسانية تقديم الخدمات من خلال الهيئة القومية، الهيئة الوطنية للأطراف الصناعية، والهيئة الدولية للصليب الأحمر. كما تم تقديم خدمات التأهيل البدني لعدد 13 طفل بدعم من اليونيسيف عبر فرع ورشة مدينة الأمل الطبية في مدرمان ولاية الخرطوم. في إطار تعزيز التعافي والاندماج المجتمعي، تم تقديم خدمات الدعم النفسي والاجتماعي والاقتصادي لعدد 35 ضحية، إلى جانب تنظيم ورشة لمناصرة حقوق الأشخاص ذوي الإعاقة وتنفيذ حملتي لتوعية بحقوقهم، وذلك بتمويل من صندوق الدعم السودان الإنساني SHF. في إطار التنسيق المستمر بين المركز القومي لمكافحة الألغام ومكتب خدمات الأمم المتحدة الأنماس، تم عقد ورشة لبرنامج مساعدة الضحايا بمشاركة عدد من المنظمات الدولية والوطنية. تمت مناقشة العديد من التحديات وآلية إحالة الضحايا عبر برنامج الهيئة الدولية للصليب الأحمر وتطوير خارطة الخدمات. إننا ندعو المجتمع الدولي إلى تعزيز دعمه لبرنامج إزالة الألغام وتوسيع خدمات مساعدة الضحايا وإعادة تأهيل المراكز المتضررة وتوفير المواد اللازمة للأطراف الصناعية وخدمات التأهيل الشامل. وفي الختام أتوجه بالشكر والتقدير لجميع الشركاء الدوليين والمنظمات الإنسانية والجهات المانحة التي تواصل جهودها لدعم الشعب السوداني. شكرا جزيلا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Tajikistan, to be followed by Yemen, who will be the last speaker for today, given the time. So Tajikistan, you have the floor.
Уважаемые председатели, дамы и господа, дорогие коллеги и партнеры, для меня большая честь выступить от имени Национального центра Таджикистана по минным вопросам на этом важном пленарном заседании по оказанию помощи жертвам. Таджикистан по-прежнему полностью привержен гуманитарным целям Оттавской конвенции. Сегодня я хотела бы рассказать о наших достижениях, обсудить наиболее актуальные проблемы и обозначить ключевые приоритеты нашей страны в оказании поддержки людям, пострадавших от мин, противопехотных мин и взрывоопасных остатков войны. Next slide. Наш подход к оказанию помощи жертвам строится на системной основе, в строгом соответствии с международными стандартами и планами действий Конвенции. Мы добились значительного прогресса в 4 ключевых областях. Во-первых, точная информация позволяет нам понимать реальные потребности каждого пострадавшего. Во-вторых, мы активно реализуем программы психологической реабилитации, летние лагеря для пострадавших и развиваем систему взаимной поддержки. В-третьих, Национальный центр Таджикистана по минным вопросам работает в тесном партнерстве с Министерством здравоохранения и социальной защиты населения, а также с международными и неправительственными организациями. В-четвертых, мы твердо убеждены, что пострадавшие должны быть не просто получателями помощи, а активными участниками процессов принятия решений. Next slide. С 1992 года в Таджикистане зарегистрировано в общей сложности 892 жертвы мин и взрывоопасных остатков войны. 351 человек погибло, а 541 получили ранения различных степеней тяжести. Историческая диаграмма наглядно демонстрирует, что благодаря масштабным работам по разминированию и обучению людей минной опасности нам удалось сократить ежегодное число жертв до единичных случаев. В 2024 году жертв не было, а в 2025 году их было 2. Это огромное достижение, однако для 541 выжившего борьба за полноценную жизнь продолжается каждый день. Их потребности в реабилитации сохраняются на протяжении всей жизни. Next slide. Основные проблемы. Первое. Экономическая реинтеграция пострадавших в Таджикистане. Большинство пострадавших проживают в отдельных сельских районах, где доступ к рынку труда и возможностям получения дохода крайне ограничен. Второе. Услуги физической реабилитации. Нам срочно необходимо модернизировать наши реабилитационные центры и обеспечить бесперебойное снабжение высококачественными протезами. Третье. Доступность и устранение физических барьеров. Создание безбарьерной среды в сельских районах остается сложной задачей. Четвертое. Недостаток финансирования для реализации мероприятий по оказанию помощи жертвам. Сокращение международной финансовой поддержки напрямую влияет на масштабы и регулирует наших программ. Пятое. Основная необходимость обеспечения и учета различных потребностей и точек зрения женщин, девочек, мальчиков и мужчин при планировании мер поддержки. Next slide. В заключение я хотела бы обозначить наши основные приоритеты в оказании помощи пострадавшим, для чего нам необходима ваша постоянная поддержка. Улучшение экономического положения лиц, пострадавших от мин, посредством микрокредитования, профессионального обучения и поддержки самозанятости, укрепление технического потенциала государственного предприятия по производству протезов и ортопедических изделий для обеспечения пострадавших высококачественными протезами, повышение потенциала неправительственных организаций, созданных и управляемых самими пострадавшими от мин, мобилизация гибкой финансовой и технической поддержки со стороны международного сообщества. И наконец, содействует процессу ратификации и практической реализации Конвенции о правах инвалидов в нашей стране, что создаст прочную правовую основу для системных изменений. Мы искренне благодарим всех наших доноров и партнеров за их многолетнюю поддержку. Помощь пострадавшим – это не краткосрочный проект, а долгосрочное гуманитарное обязательство. Мы не можем позволить себе оставить этих людей на произвол судьбы. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Yemen as the last speaker of this afternoon. Sir, you have the floor.
شكرا رئاسة الاجتماع على منح وفد بلادي الكلمة. السيدات والسادة الحاضرون جميعا، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سيدتي الرئيس، الحضور الكرام، بداية نود التنويه إلى التحديات التي لدينا في هذا البند في اجتماعنا اليوم، وكما تم الإشارة إليه ضمن تدابير الشفافية وفق تقرير المادة 7 المقدم هذا العام كالتالي. أولا، فيما يتعلق بالجهود المبذولة لضمان استدامة جهود مساعدة الضحايا ونقاط الاتصال ضمن حكومة بلادي، هناك عدة جهات، بداية من اللجنة الوطنية للتعامل مع الألغام، والتي أنشئت وفق قرار جمهوري تم تعيين رئيسا لها، وهي الجهة المسؤولة في رسم السياسات والاستراتيجيات ضمن الأعمال المتعلقة بالألغام، وسوف يتم التحديث اللجنة أولا بأول عن جهود اللجنة في هذا السياق. أيضا ضمن جهات حكومية في بلادي كوزارة الشؤون الاجتماعية والعمل ووزارة الصحة والسكان، بالإضافة إلى تشكيل هيئة مختصة بجميع الجرحى والمصابين في عموم الوطن لهذا العام، وهذا سوف يتم تحديث اللجنة ضمن التدابير والجهود التي سوف يتم العمل بها مستقبلا. أما من ناحية الاستدامة فهناك تحديات جمة في الأطر الوطنية بشكل أوسع، متمثلة في الصعوبات الاقتصادية التي تعاني منها حكومة بلادي، وكذا مسألة ضعف ونقص التمويل والدعم الدولي المقدم في هذا الشأن. حاليا لدينا قاعدة بيانات وطنية ضمن نظام الأمزمة كور بدعم من مركز جنيف الدولي لإزالة الألغام للأغراض الإنسانية GICHD، من خلاله يتم تحسين جمع وإعداد التقارير المتعلقة بيانات ضحايا الألغام، ويتم العمل حاليا مع مختلف أصحاب المصلحة من خلال وضع خطط العمل بواقع زمني محدد، كما تم الإشارة إليه في تقرير المادة 7 خلال شهر أبريل، مع التنويه لعدم وجود أي تحديثات في قائمة التدقيق لخطة عمل سيام ريب. إجمالي الضحايا في الوقت الحالي التي تم تسجيلها وتحديث بياناتهم خلال العام 2025 حتى يومنا هذا ما بين قتلى وجرحى كالتالي: نساء 24، رجال 162، أطفال إناث 8، أطفال ذكور 26، وتسجيل ورصد عدد 168 حادثا. هناك مسودة في مسألة التخطيط الاستراتيجي للأعمال المتعلقة بالألغام في اليمن، وهناك إشراك محدود للمجتمعات المتضررة والناجين من القذائف غير المنفجرة، مع الأخذ بعين الاعتبار الاعتبارات المتعلقة بالعمر والجنس. ثالثا، الجهود المؤسسية الفعالة لدمج مساعدة الضحايا في الأطر الوطنية. هناك تشريعات وطنية فيما يتعلق بسياسات مساعدة ودمج الضحايا والأشخاص ذوي الإعاقة وإعادة تأهيلهم في المجتمع. هناك خدمات متوفرة ولكن ليست بالمستوى المطلوب من خلال المستشفيات والعيادات الصحية في مختلف المحافظات، مع توفير خدمات طوارئ بدعم مختلفة من الشركاء وبالتنسيق مع وزارة الصحة والسكان. توجد مراكز إعادة تأهيل في المحافظات الرئيسية في محافظة عدن وحضرموت وتعز ومأرب، تقدم العلاج الطبيعي والأطراف الصناعية بدعم من شركاء دوليين ومن أبرزهم مركز الملك سلمان للأعمال الإغاثية والإنسانية ومنظمة اليونيسيف. هناك خدمات اجتماعية ومعاهد مختصة في التدريب المهني من أجل تسهيل الاندماج من نواحي اقتصادية واجتماعية، ولكنها بقدرات محدودة بسبب مسألة ضعف التمويل. ثالثا، آليات التنسيق بين الوزارات ومختلف القطاعات. إن آلية التنسيق المعمول بها ضمن الأعمال المتعلقة بالألغام تتماشى مع الأولويات والمصالح الوطنية عبر إنشاء مجموعات عمل تقنية بوتيرة شهرية مع مختلف أصحاب المصلحة، وهذا من أجل تكامل الجهود. يتم التنسيق مع مختلف الشركاء الدوليين مثل اللجنة الدولية للصليب الأحمر ومنظمة اليونيسيف في مسألة التقييم والتوعية بالمخاطر ضمن الأعمال الإنسانية في المناطق والمجتمعات المتضررة. ساهمت آلية التنسيق المعمول بها في تعزيز وتطوير منهجيات هذا الشأن. رابعا، إشراك الناجين من الضحايا في مسألة التخطيط وتوفير إمكانية الوصول للمناطق الريفية. يتم إشراك الضحايا الناجين من القذائف المنفجرة في مسألة التخطيط وتقييم الاحتياجات من أجل ضمان توفر تدخلات وعمليات إنسانية تلبي احتياجات خاصة بهم بخصوص إمكانية الوصول. فيتم إشراك الضحايا والناجين كنقاط تواصل مجتمعي ومدربين في مسألة التوعية بمخاطر الألغام من أجل عمليات الإحالة في المجتمعات والمناطق المتضررة. أما في سياق الأعمال، إزالة التلوث من الألغام الأرضية ومخلفات الحرب الخطرة في المناطق الخطرة من خلال عمليات الاستجابة الطارئة التي تقوم بها فرق المركز التنفيذي للتعامل مع الألغام والمشروع السعودي مسام لنزع الألغام، فلقد ساهمت لتوفير إمكانية وصول الخدمات الإنسانية في هذه المناطق. بالرغم من هذه الجهود إلا أنه لا تزال هناك مناطق تفتقر إلى الوصول للخدمات والرعاية الصحية بسبب الأوضاع والتحديات الصعبة التي تعاني منها بلادي. سيدتي الرئيس، لا نود الإطالة عليكم، ونحن على ثقة تامة بأننا جنبا إلى جنب ويدا بيد مع اليمن، فإنه يمكن تذليل هذه الصعوبات وإيجاد الحلول الممكنة للتغلب على هذه التحديات عبر شراكات تنموية. ونأمل ونتطلع إلى الدعم السخي من الأشقاء والأصدقاء في الدول المانحة والشركاء والمنظمات الإنسانية في مجال مساعدة الضحايا من خلال تقديم الرعاية الصحية وإعادة تأهيلهم ودمجهم في المجتمع المدني، وهذا يتطلب إلى وقوف الجميع ومضاعفة الجهود ودعم اليمن في مجال مساعدة الضحايا، ولا سيما في الإسهام باستمرارية الدعم التقني في هذا السياق. أخيرا، اسمحي لي سيدتي الرئيس أن أتقدم بالشكر الجزيل إليكم ومن خلالكم إلى الدول والمنظمات غير الحكومية التي دعمت وتعمل على دعم الحكومة اليمنية للتغلب على تلك التحديات، وعلى رأسها الأشقاء في المملكة العربية السعودية ممثلة بمركز الملك سلمان للإغاثة والأعمال الإنسانية الذي قدم وما زال يقدم الدعم السخي والإنساني للضحايا والأشخاص ذوي الاحتياجات الخاصة من خلال دعم المراكز الصحية الكبيرة، والذي سيسهل على الحكومة بلادي في مجال مساعدة الضحايا. شكرا لكم وسامحونا على الإطالة.
Thank you very much, and thank you as well to our interpreters that have given us a little bit over time. This concludes our discussion for this afternoon. We will continue tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The first 3 speakers on the list will be Zimbabwe, Algeria, and Colombia. And please be reminded to keep your statements to 5 minutes for states parties and 3 minutes for all other statements. Thank you very much, and a good evening to all.